Chapter 434. Madame Jean knew Chen Fei for a long time, and she even talked to Chen Fei on the phone yesterday, so it was normal for her to know about Lu Chen's matter. It was obviously a harmless little joke with Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen knew very well that Chen Fei and Madame Jean didn't have much of friendship, or they hadn't contacted each other for a long time. Otherwise, she would definitely tell him about the existence of such a person. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Thank you so much this time. You didn't embarrass me." Madame Jean shook her head and didn't take credit for it. The girl from a Su family was the first one. I just snatched it from her. That girl isn't to be trifled with. Just remember it. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry because Xu Jing had already reminded him of this before. He was already very clear that Su Hui, who claimed to be his fan, wasn't an ordinary artist. She had a very strong background. Lu Chen was puzzled. Do I look like the kind of person who would flirt with other girls? I forgot to introduce you just now. Fortunately, Madame Jean stopped and didn't talk about this issue further. She introduced the two girls beside her to Lu Chen. This is my goddaughter, Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan. Xiaodai will debut next month. Her eyes were full of love. It was obvious that she liked her two goddaughters very much. Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan were both 17 or 18 years old. The two girls were both beautiful and cute. Ji Xiaodai's face was slightly thin, and her long hair was beautiful. Li Xinyan had short hair and an apple face. When she smiled, there were dimples. "Hello, brother Lu Chen." The two girls greeted Lu Chen in unison. Madame Jean immediately corrected them. "You should call him Teacher Lu Chen, Teacher Lu." Li Xinyan stuck out her tongue and quickly said, "Hello, Teacher Lu." Ji Xiaodai followed. The two were like a pair of sisters. Li Xinyan's personality was obviously more lively, and Ji Xiaodai was introverted and shy. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Hello." He asked Madame Jean, "This song is for Xiaodai, right?" "Yeah." Madame Jean nodded. She held Ji Xiaodai's hand and said, "Xiaodai's temper is a bit soft. I'm afraid that she will encounter some setbacks, but people have to learn to grow up. Since she has stepped into this circle, she has no choice. I just hope that her first step will be smooth. And Xianyan, Teacher Lu Chen, please give them more pointers in the future. Just a word from you is enough for them to benefit endlessly." Lu Chen said modestly, "You flatter me too much. I'm embarrassed." Madame Jean said seriously, "You don't have to be humble. As far as I know, no one in the younger generation can compare to you in terms of Chinese music originals. It's just that some people are frogs at the bottom of a well and don't know." She was undoubtedly mocking Liang Zhihao. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Madame Jean didn't intend to let him go. "Since we met here, you should give Ji Xiaodai some advice." Madame Jean wasn't being polite. Her understanding of Lu Chen was much deeper than Lu Chen imagined. She was very clear about Lu Chen's achievements in music. Chen Fei's new album, which has achieved the achievement of Crown, is the best proof. Moreover, Lu Chen has also made a number of singers and groups popular and is famous in the domestic pop music world. It was just that his debut was too short and he had never held a concert in Hong Kong, so most people didn't know him. Madame Jean certainly had to firmly grasp this real potential stock. That was why she was bidding tit for tat with Su Hui, a junior. Ji Xiaodai looked at Lu Chen with expectation. She was obviously nervous about her debut. In fact, many newcomers had such a problem. As a result, they made mistakes or even failed in their debut because they lacked enough confidence. Lu Chen thought for a moment and asked, "Is Xiaodai going to debut alone?" Madame Jean replied, "Yes, I'm going to let her debut first and then arrange for Xinyan." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Then why not let the two debut together and form a female singing duo?" Ji Xiaodai was introverted and shy, while Li Xinyan was cheerful and generous. The two seemed to have a good relationship. If they could form a duo, it would solve a lot of problems. Madame Jean was obviously stunned. She really didn't think of this. On the contrary, Li Xinyan took the initiative to expose herself. "Teacher Lu, my voice is ordinary. Godmother is going to let me develop in variety and film. Sister Xiaodia's singing is much better than mine. I can't drag her down. Ji Xiaodai shook her head and didn't speak. But she was obviously quite tempted by Lu Chen's suggestion. With a good sister accompanying her, she would feel much more at ease. Lu Chen said, "This is actually not a problem. The key is that the two of you have a good image. You don't need to have a deep singing foundation or talent. It's completely possible to be a youth idol." Madame Jean only hesitated for a moment before decisively making a decision. "Then it's settled. You will debut together as a duo. I will let the company redo all the publicity plans and everything else." She was very bold. Just one sentence from Lu Chen overturned her previous preparations. The price was not low. Madame Jean, who had made up her mind, seemed to have put down a big stone in her heart. She smiled and asked Lu Chen, "You came up with the idea. Then, the name of their duo shouldn't be given to you, right?" Naming a duo was a very serious matter. Madame Jean asking Lu Chen to name the duo was recognition and respect. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, "Let's call it twins." "Twins?" Ji Xiaodai asked in surprise. "Is that English for twins?" Lu Chen nodded. "That's right. Do you like it?" "Twins." Ji Xiaodai softly said the name. Her eyes flashed with a strange look. She looked at Li Xinyan, and the latter nodded with a smile. Li Xinyan undoubtedly liked it. Madame Jean looked at her two goddaughters and couldn't help but laugh. "This name is really suitable for you." Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan originally didn't know each other. The two of them became good friends when they were trainees in Madame Jin's company, and then they were inseparable. Originally, after graduating and debuting, the two of them would develop separately. It was hard to say what would happen in the future. Fate was really strange. Now, because of the appearance of Lu Chen, they could continue this friendship and work together on the road of their career. Maybe this was fate. Madame Jean finally said to Lu Chen, "Then, I will leave the debut of twins to you." Lu Chen smiled and said, "No problem." Madame Jean donated 1 million yuan. In return, he had already thought of the debut of twins. In short, it definitely wouldn't disappoint. "I will send someone to send the score over in 3 days." At this moment, the charity auction was nearing its end. Chapter 435. Under the curtain of night, Xiangjiang was a dazzling and intoxicated world. In this world, there were countless social engagements every day. Well-dressed gentlemen and ladies lingered in all kinds of social occasions, wearing hypocritical masks and saying insincere words, but they enjoyed it. Countless news was created here every day. Just after 8 p.m., Xu Jing's charity dinner at Shangri-La Hotel officially ended. The auction raised more than 10 million yuan, which was mainly used to help poor mothers and children in Hong Kong. There were many rich people in Xiangjiang. Among the rich, there were countless people with assets of more than 100 million yuan. There were also several world-renowned top billionaires, but among the population of more than 13 million, there were still a large number of poor people. Whether it was the upper class or the media controlled by the upper class, they rarely cared about these people at the bottom of society. Countless ordinary people struggled to survive. Compared to those extravagant rich people, they were like ants, unable to withstand even a little storm. In the past few decades, Xiangjiang's economy had developed greatly, but social contradictions were becoming more and more prominent. People with insight realized the biggest problem of Xiangjiang society and had been loudly calling for improving the situation of the poor people. Xu Jing was undoubtedly one of them. She began to pay attention to the poor people in Hong Kong a long time ago. After marrying into a rich family, she established a charity foundation and used her own influence and connections to help those in need. After more than 10 years, although her reputation in the entertainment circle was far less than before, in terms of status and prestige, it was no less than those big stars. So tonight, she successfully completed the fundraising goal. "Lu Chen, thank you so much this time." After the dinner, Xu Jing first sent the guests away one by one and asked her assistant to specially invite Lu Chen to stay. "How about a cup of coffee together?" Lu Chen laughed and said, "It's not good to drink coffee at night, right? But since Sister Jing said so, I will accompany you." Xu Jing smiled and said, "Xiangjiang's nightlife hasn't even started yet." The coffee shop that Xu Jing invited Lu Chun to was right next to the Shangri-La Hotel. It was said that it was the most famous Lantern coffee in Xiangjiang. If one didn't make a reservation in advance, then they definitely wouldn't be able to get a seat. The seat Xu Jing had booked was very good. It was close to the large floor-to-ceiling window. As long as one turned their head to look, they would be able to see the beautiful night view of Port Victoria. Tasting the fragrant hand-ground coffee, listening to the live piano playing in the cafe, and facing a charming beauty, Lu Chun felt that his trip to Xiangjiang this time was really worthwhile. Of course, he only wanted to admire the beauty and nothing else. Perhaps it was Lu Chen's calm and appreciative attitude that made Xu Jing have a good impression of him. After some careful observation, she finally approved of Lu Chun. Fei has found a good boyfriend. As a sister, I'm really happy for her. Although it was a compliment, it still sounded a little weird. Lu Chun smiled bitterly and said, "Sister Jing, you will make me very embarrassed." Xu Jing pursed her lips and smiled. What's there to be embarrassed about? Fei's foresight has always been better than mine. Back then, she advised me not to marry into a wealthy family, thinking that women should rely on themselves to win their lives. I almost fell out with her. She stopped smiling and said in a low voice, "Now that I think about it, what she said couldn't be more right." Lu Chun was silent. Although it was the first time they met, he could see that under Xu Jing's bright and beautiful appearance, there was probably an unknown bitterness. In fact, thinking about it, it could be understood. As a former little empress, she didn't have much popularity after re-entering the entertainment circle. Although she had a place in the upper class by relying on the reputation accumulated by the charity foundation, the face was given by others. All the glory and glory were like castles on the beach. If a strong wind and big waves swept over, then it was very likely to vanish into thin air. To lay a foundation in Xiangjiang and not fall, the most basic thing was one's own strength. Let's not talk about this. Xu Jing reinvigorated herself and smiled again. What were you talking about with Madame Jean for so long? Did you fall for her two goddaughters? You were still reluctant to part with them when you were about to leave. There was a teasing look in her smile, the kind of teasing between friends. Sister Jing, don't slander me. Lu Chun hurriedly surrendered. I just promised to write a debut work for the two of them. 2 songs? Xu Jing was surprised. Is it 1 song? Lu Chun explained, actually it's 1 song. Because I suggested that the 2 girls should debut as a duo. Madame Jean agreed. It's called Twins. Twins. Xu Jing's eyes suddenly lit up and said, a duo girl group? It seems that there are no famous people in the circle now. This name is very good. Did you give it to them? Lu Chun nodded. Xu Jing sighed and said, these 2 girls are lucky to meet you. I can already predict that Twins' debut will definitely be successful because you wrote songs for them. Lu Chun smiled and shook his head. Sister Jing, you're still slandering me. Not slandering, Xu Jing said very seriously. I heard that you have a nickname called Golden Touch. It is said that your hands have the magic power to turn stone into gold. Any singer who sings the songs written by you will definitely become popular. Lu Chun blushed with shame. I didn't know I had such a nickname. It's too exaggerated. Xu Jing smiled slightly. Whether it's exaggerated or not, I only know after trying it. I'm currently collecting works and preparing to release a new album before the end of the year. So I want to ask you, the Golden Touch, to help me write 2 songs. How about it? Lu Chun replied without hesitation, no problem. His straightforwardness made Xu Jing stunned. Don't you want to ask about the conditions? What if I want you to do it for free? There was a playful expression on her face. Lu Chun said freely, you are Fei's friend, so you are my friend. There is no need to talk about so many conditions between friends. It's not a problem for you to do it for free. What Lu Chun said was not polite words and empty words. He started his own film career in Xiangjiang and needed support from all sides. For a person like Xu Jing, who was influential in the circle, what did it matter if he gave her 2 songs? What's more, she was friends with Fei and helped him get to know many high-level figures in the circle. However, Xu Jing was inexplicably moved. After experiencing the ups and downs of prosperity, She was not the kind of person who would be easily moved. However, Lu Chen's honesty and generosity made her see a different man. How lucky Chan Fei was. Chapter 436. Then I'll leave the title song of my new album to you. Xu Jing stood in front of a white Maserati with a small bag and said to Lu Chen with a smile, "After going back, I'll tell Fei more good things about you. Even if you do something bad in Xiangjiang, I'll pretend that I didn't see it." Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Thank you so much, Sister Jing." She was already in her 30s, but her jokes were not much different from those of young people. But this just showed her appreciation and affection for Lu Chen. This was the premise of being a real friend. "Goodbye." Xu Jing smiled and waved like a familiar friend, then turned around and opened the door and got in. Lu Chen watched Xu Jing's car go away and disappeared in the rolling traffic on the long street. He said to Li Zhen, "Let's go." Li Zhen hesitated and asked, "Boss, it's still early. Do you want to take you to the night market in Xiangjiang?" Temple Street in Julong Yaomati is very lively at night. People in Xiangjiang were very fond of nightlife, especially young people. Except for a few otakus, most people would play very late. In addition, tens of millions of tourists poured into Xiangjiang every year, creating the prosperity of a night market in Xiangjiang. Lu Chen had long been famous for the night market in Xiangjiang. He was quite tempted, but after thinking about it, he gave up. It was boring to go to the night market alone. Even if Li Zhen accompanied him, she was just an assistant after all. Li Zhen didn't give up. She thought that Lu Chen was afraid of the noise and crowding, and said, "If you don't like the night market, then go to Lan Kwai Fong. The bar in Lan Kwai Fong is very unique, and there are many foreigners." Compared with Temple Street in Jiulong Yaomati, Lu Chen undoubtedly knew more about the bar in Lan Kwai Fong. Although it was the first time he came to Xiangjiang, he had long heard of the famous bar in Lan Kwai Fong. When Lu Chen was mingling in Forget Grass Bar, he once knew a singer from Xiangjiang who sang in Lan Kwai Fong and told him a lot about it. At that time, Lu Chen really yearned for it. Li Zhen's suggestion inevitably evoked his memories and feelings. "Then let's go to Orchid Kwai Lane." Finally getting what she wanted, the little assistant was overjoyed. "Okay." Lan Kwai Fong, Lan Kwai Fong, was an L-shaped uphill path located in the Central District. Its name was taken from the meaning of Lan Kwai Fong. It was a high-end consumer area that gathered bars and restaurants of all sizes. Therefore, it was very popular with the middle class, foreigners, and tourists. It was one of the special tourist attractions of Xiangjiang. It was only a 5-minute drive from the Shangri-La Hotel to Lan Kwai Fong. After getting off the car, Lu Chen and Li Zhen walked into the famous street. Walking into Lan Kwai Fong, the atmosphere was immediately different from the Central District. This path, paved with stone eggs, was filled with a European-style atmosphere. There were bars and restaurants on both sides of the road. The unique street lights and the light emitted by various signboards set off a different atmosphere. Most of the bars here were open from noon to 2 a.m. or even later. There were also English and Australian bars, and even Japanese karaoke lounges that served snacks all day. Therefore, whenever the night fell, many young and fashionable people of Hong Kong liked to come here to have a good time, making Lan Kwai Fong full of vitality that belonged to young people. Li Zhen was a frequent visitor of Lan Kwai Fong, so she was clear and logical when she talked about it. It's still okay now. During holidays such as Halloween, Christmas, and New Year's Eve, Lan Kwai Fong will hold street carnival activities. This is definitely one of the most lively places in Xiangjiang. There are a lot of foreign tourists. Along the way, Lu Chen saw a lot of foreigners. They were standing at the entrance of the bar or on the roadside in groups of 2 or 3 holding a glass of wine. They were whispering and chatting or admiring the people and scenery along the street. Li Zhen suggested, "Boss, let's go to La Dolce Vita 97 bar. There are free performances every night. Saxophone, guitar, singing, and dance. I've been there with my friends many times." La Dolce Vita. Lu Chen thought it was a good idea. "Then let's go to this bar." La Dolce Vita 97 bar was not fundamentally different from the other bars in Lan Kwai Fong. It was an English bar with a rather fashionable style. The decoration was unique, but not luxurious, and the furnishings were relatively simple. Inside, the space was not particularly big. Wooden tables, high stools, or high back chairs were standard equipment. The wine cabinet behind the bar was filled with all kinds of beer and other alcohol, as well as wine glasses. Two white-skinned and blue-eyed bartenders were mixing drinks for the guests. Most of the seats were occupied. On the small rotating stage on the right side of the bar, a jazz band was playing. Their skills were quite exquisite. Just by listening to this song, Lu Chun felt that this trip was not in vain. The bartenders were foreigners, and so were the members of the jazz band. However, the waitresses were obviously locals. Li Jun greeted one of them and asked her to help find an empty seat. Jun, unexpectedly, before they could find an empty seat, someone stood up and called Li Jun's name. How did you know we were here? The other party was undoubtedly Li Jun's friend. There were many people there. 4 men and 3 women shared 2 tables. One of the short-haired girls was very surprised and rushed over to hug Li Jun. Li Jun had an embarrassed look on her face. She didn't expect all her friends to be here tonight. The short-haired girl did not ignore Lu Chun, who was walking with Li Jun. In fact, when she hugged Li Jun, her eyes kept glancing at Lu Chun's body with a strong sense of playfulness. Jun, you are too unkind. You actually found a handsome boyfriend without saying a word. The short-haired girl was full of jealousy and teased. You even secretly ran out for a date? Are you afraid that we will rob you? Li Jun did not know whether to laugh or cry. Shui and I, this is not my boyfriend. The short-haired girl named Shui and I did not listen to Li Jun's explanation. She took the initiative to reach out to Lu Chun and said, Hello, handsome. My name is Shui and I am Jun's good friend. Lu Chun smiled faintly and shook hands with her. Hello, my name is Lu Chun. I am Jun's friend. Shui and I gave Li Jun a look that said, Don't you dare to deny it. She pulled the ladder back to her seat and shouted, Attention, everyone. Let's welcome our Jun and her handsome friend Lu Chun. Several of her peers immediately laughed, applauded, and jeered, which made Li Jun feel very embarrassed. She did not know how to tell these friends that Lu Chun was her boss. Lu Chun did not mind. He sat down big, nodded, and said hello. From beginning to end, Lu Chun spoke fluent Cantonese, so these young people thought that he was a local, but they were quite curious about his identity. Soon, someone could not help but ask, How did you meet Jun? Chapter 437. How did you get to know Jun? The person who questioned Lu Chun was a young man in his mid-20s. His appearance was passable, a little handsome, and he knew how to dress up. He belonged to the type that young girls liked. But he obviously liked Li Jun, so when he saw Lu Chun with Li Jun, he couldn't help feeling jealous. His eyes and words were full of provocation. Li Jun frowned and asked discontentedly, Chun Jiaming, what does this have to do with you? She was more uneasy, worried that her friend would offend Lu Chun. She didn't want to lose her current job. Originally, Li Jun had a good impression of Chun Jiaming. Although she didn't agree to his pursuit, she acquiesced to his pursuit. Now it seemed that she needed to reconsider, because the nature of her job required her to stay with the boss for a long time. If she had a jealous boyfriend, her life would be very painful. Li Jun had seen a real-life example with her own eyes. She didn't want to repeat the same mistake. It doesn't matter. Lu Chun smiled and waved his hand. He said to Chun Jiaming, I just came to Xiangjiang 2 days ago. Jin works with me. Because I'm not familiar with Xiangjiang, she took me to Lan Kuai Lane to broaden my horizons. He looked around and said, This place is really good. So you are Jun's new colleague. Shui and I suddenly realized and asked curiously, Where are you from? Do you have a girlfriend now? The gossiping spirit of her best friend made Li Jun want to cover her face. She was so embarrassed. Lu Chun didn't care and replied patiently, I'm from the capital. I already have a girlfriend, and I love my girlfriend very much. He winked at Shui and I, but everyone knew that he was talking to Chun Jiaming. Chun Jiaming had an embarrassed look on his face. But Shui and I obviously didn't give up. She said without thinking, Then your girlfriend didn't come with you, right? How about I be your girlfriend in Xiangjiang? If I'm satisfied with your performance, it's not impossible for me to marry you in the future. Ha! Her friends all laughed and jeered. Shui and I, good job. Lu Chan was speechless. Li Zhen wished she could find a hole to hide in. Lu Chan didn't expect that this pretty girl would be so bold and direct. They had just met, and she wanted to be his girlfriend. He recalled that Xiangjiang's marriage system was different from the mainland. The 3 special regions all allowed one to marry more than one wife. It was said that many rich people in the mainland tried their best to move to Hong Kong, Taiwan, or Macau. In addition to the living environment and conditions, many of them were aiming at this system. On the other hand, because a large number of wealthy people had migrated, the market had flourished and brought in huge amounts of investment. Therefore, although the women's rights organizations in the 3 special regions have been strongly requesting to amend the unfair marriage law for many years, there had always been a lot of resistance. It was a pity that Lu Chen only had Chen Feier. I'm afraid that won't work because my girlfriend is very powerful and she's much richer than me. She definitely won't sign the consent form. Lu Chen joked, that's why it's a pity. Although the 3 special regions allowed more than one wife, if one wanted to marry the second wife or the third wife, one must first get the support of the first wife and get the latter's signed consent form. Shui and I suddenly stopped talking and looked at Lu Chan with disdain. I didn't expect you to be such a handsome guy. This made the atmosphere a little awkward, but Chun Jiaming was relieved. He felt that Lu Chan was pleasing to the eye, because he knew that Li Zhen would definitely not like this kind of boy. Seeing this situation, Li Zhen's other friend quickly smoothed things over and asked, Lu Chun, you speak Cantonese so well. Are you from Guangdong? Lu Chun shook his head with a smile and said, No, I'm from Zhidong. I learned Cantonese from my university classmates. The other party praised, Then you're so amazing. You're learning so well. If I didn't know, I would think that you're a native of Xiangjiang and not from the mainland. Although it was a compliment, it inadvertently revealed a sense of regional superiority. To this, Lu Chun just laughed it off. Although he had only been in Xiangjiang for a short time, he could feel that the social atmosphere here was really very different from that of the mainland. Openness and conservatism coexisted, and the fusion of different civilizations produced a special culture, as well as the people of Xiangjiang. Putting aside the sense of regional superiority in their bones, these young people of Xiangjiang were still very easy to deal with. It was probably because Lu Chan could speak Cantonese fluently, plus he was tall and handsome. So Li Zhen's friends quickly accepted Lu Chen. Even Shui and I, who was a little depressed, regained her happiness and talked and laughed with Li Zhen again. Lu Chan ordered a beer and drank it slowly. He listened more than he spoke, and his conversation was not bad. Therefore, despite the suspicion of living off a woman, Li Zhen's friends had a good impression of him. Inadvertently, it was already 10:30 at night. At this time, a middle-aged man walked onto the stage and said into the microphone, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe those who are familiar with La Dolce Vita 97 know that our bar will be holding another LDV singing competition tonight. The winner will not only be rewarded with a free meal for the whole table, but will also be given 2 bottles of high-end red wine. Let's start signing up now, and the competition will begin soon. As soon as his voice fell, there was immediately a warm applause, whistles, and cheers. For a moment, the atmosphere in the bar was pushed to a climax. Li Zhen knew that Lu Chun did not understand, so she deliberately explained it to him. It turned out that the La Dolce Vita 97 bar held a singing competition every week. Any customer could go on stage and perform their singing talent, and then the audience would judge the best. Each table could only send 1 representative. If they won, then all the food that had been ordered would be free of charge. Although it was not a very generous reward, it was fun and fun. Many customers came specially for this. Those who were confident of winning the final victory would often order a lot of things in advance. If they won, they would make a lot of money. To put it bluntly, this was just a clever way for the bar to attract customers. Lu Chan asked curiously, How will the audience judge? Li Zhen reached out and picked up a rose inserted in a vase on the wine table. She said, This is the ballot. After listening, let the waiter give it to the chosen contestant. Whoever has the most roses will be the winner. So that's how it is, Lu Chan praised. Very interesting. The bar owner had really racked his brains. It was no wonder that the bar was full. Li Jun lowered her voice and asked, "Boss, you'll definitely win if you go on stage." Chapter 438. Boss, you will definitely win if you go on stage. Although Li Jun's words were very light, she was absolutely confident. Who is Lu Chun? He is the well-deserved #1 among the new generation of singers in the mainland. His debut time is very short, but his speed of becoming famous is very fast. The success of his 2 albums have proved his strength. Lu Chun also won the championship of the influential Singing China reality show. The more she knew about Lu Chun, the more Li Jun felt incredible. Hong Kong's pop music began in the early 1970s and has been up and down for decades. There was an incomparably glorious era, with a large number of outstanding singers and musicians emerging and a huge impact on the mainland. But in Li Jun's impression, a young singer like Lu Chun, who has style, talent, and strength, there are really few people in the pop music world of Xiangjiang who could be compared with him. It should be known that Lu Chun is a top singer who combines singing and creation. If he goes on stage, won't he easily crush everyone in La Dolce Vita 97? That's bound to win. Before joining Lu Chun's studio, Li Jun, like the vast majority of Hong Kong people, knew nothing about her new boss. Now that she knows and is familiar with him, she is more and more looking forward to hearing Lu Chun's live singing. Therefore, Li Jun instigated Lu Chun as a small wish of the latter's fans. Lu Chun shook his head with a smile. He is confident that he can win if he goes on stage, but that would be bullying. What are you talking about? At this time, Chun Jiaming was in a bad mood again. He saw Li Jun and Lu Chun whispering, as if they were very intimate, and the jealousy in his heart rose again. Although he knew that his question would make Li Jun feel disgusted, he couldn't bear to pretend not to see it. It's none of your business. Li Jun couldn't help rolling her eyes. Lu Chun said with a faint smile, "We're talking about who should go on stage later. Of course, it's Jiaming." Sitting next to Chen Jiaming's friend, immediately said, "Jiaming sings very well. He's best at Lu Tianwang songs, and he has won an award in a singing competition before." Chen Jiaming revealed a proud expression and did not show any signs of modesty. Singing was really one of Chen Jiaming's best skills. His favorite and idol was Hong Kong superstar Lu Gangsheng, so he had painstakingly imitated Lu Tianwang's works. In the KTV set organized by his colleagues and friends, his singing often won applause. Chen Jiaming was prepared to go on stage himself, but when he saw the calm smile on Lu Chen's face, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. So he said, "I think it's better to let Lu Chen go. It's his first time here, so of course he has to have fun. How can he not go on stage and sing? Am I right?" His friends looked at each other. Everyone had known each other for a long time and were very familiar with each other. Everyone could naturally see what Chen Jiaming was planning. It was nothing more than to let Lu Chen go up on stage and embarrass himself. In turn, it would serve as a foil to win Li Jun's favor. It had to be said that this method was not very clever. This was not the way to chase a girl, and Lu Chen obviously did not have the idea of chasing Li Jun. Chen Jiaming was undoubtedly blinded by jealousy. But because everyone was friends, no one could criticize Chen Jiaming. The person next to Chen Jiaming clapped and said, yes, this idea is good, I support it." The others could not help but look at Li Jun. She was the one who brought Lu Chun. Li Jun's expression was very strange, as if she wanted to laugh, but also seemed to not know whether to laugh or cry. In short, it was very strange. What did this mean? Everyone did not understand. Lu Chun coughed and said, "Let Brother Jiaming go and try to get a free bill. Everyone will be happy." I knew it would be like this. Chen Jiaming's face showed a proud expression again. It would be best if Lu Chun was willing to go on stage, but it did not matter if he was not willing. Of course, he would not force him in front of Li Jun and ruin his own image. It was enough for Lu Chun to admit that he could not do it. It was better to let the Real Masters do it. Yi Xian, it's Yi Xian. What Chen Jiaming did not expect was that just as he was about to speak, a shout of surprise suddenly burst out from not far away, causing an uproar. Everyone's attention was attracted, and they quickly figured out what was going on. It turned out that the person sitting at the table was Yi Xian, a rather famous singer in Xiangjiang. He came to La Dolce Vita 97 with his friends for a small gathering, and then was recognized by the hostess who sent him the number plate. Lan Kuaifang Bar was very famous, and it was very common for star artists to appear here. Coincidentally, there was a female fan of Yi Xian who shouted on the spot. In the end, there were several Yi Xian fans in the bar, and they strongly requested Yi Xian to go on stage. Yi Xian found it difficult to refuse, so he agreed and took the number plate, causing several fans to cheer. Then what was the point of playing? The people at Lu Chen's table were all discouraged, and Chun Jiming no longer had any desire to be in the limelight. Although he was confident in his singing ability, against a famous singer like Yi Xian, he could only be crushed. There was no chance of victory. Chun Jiming wanted to amaze everyone on stage, but he didn't want to become Yi Xian's foil. In his disappointment, he suddenly had an idea and said to Lu Chun, your luck today is really good. It's a rare opportunity to be able to compete with Yi Xian on the same stage. Don't miss it. Chun Jiming didn't plan to go up, so why not let Lu Chun go up? This person, Lu Chun, sighed inwardly. This Chun Jiming was a typical smart person with no real wisdom. In fact, it was just something for everyone to have fun. There was no need to think so much about it. Why bother? What was funny was that his little scheme was seen by everyone, and he was complacent without knowing it. Lu Chun didn't think that Chun Jiming would have a chance to chase after Li Zhen. Li Zhen was a very smart girl. At this time, the hostess came over. Lu Chun took the number plate from her as proof of going on stage. He said with a smile, "Then I'll make a fool of myself. When the time comes, everyone will support me." Chun Jiming chuckled. Of course, of course. He just threw out the hot potato and couldn't wait for Lu Chun to PK with Yi Xian. He would definitely be tortured badly. Although Yi Xian wasn't a first-rate singer in Xiangjiang, he was still very strong in singing. He had released a few albums that sold well, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to be ranked second. It was too easy to crush an amateur like Lu Chun. While they were talking, La Dolce Vita 97's LDV Singing King Award officially began. The first person to go on stage was a young girl. She sang a classic old song, Love Gone Away. She sang it very well and drew warm applause. Lu Chen's number plate was number 13. Chapter 439. For the people living in Xiangjiang, the truly exciting part of their nightlife had yet to arrive. The atmosphere in La Dolce Vita 97 was just right. The LDV Singing Kings Award was extremely famous, but it was actually just a program for the bar to entertain itself. The key was to invite customers to participate in it, and anyone could go on stage and show off their singing skills. However, the situation tonight was different. The appearance of the singer Yi Xian caused the competition to lose its suspense. However, the other contestants also sang exceptionally relaxed, losing a lot of competition and gaining a lot of joy. The amateur singers who went on stage according to the number plates were of varying levels. Some of them attracted bursts of warm applause, while others attracted bursts of boos. He didn't mind being booed and finished singing with a smile. Only then would he be able to receive the small gift that the bar gave to all the contestants, 2 stacks of German black beer. Coincidentally, Yi Xian was ranked 12th, just in front of Lu Chun. A star is a star. The moment Yi Xian appeared on stage, the entire bar was in an uproar. Applause, cheers, and whistles rose and fell one after another. There were even female fans shouting his name. It was as if this was his solo concert's home ground, instantly crushing all the contestants in front of him. Yi Xian was around 30 years old. He wasn't the kind of handsome guy who met the public standards, but his skin was fair and gentle. His weak temperament should be able to attract the affection of young women. After going on stage, Yi Xian held the microphone and said, "I'm very happy tonight. I was able to meet so many friends here, and everyone likes music. La Dolce Vita 97 is also very good." Originally, I didn't plan to go on stage, but since everyone insisted, I can only make a fool of myself. I drank a lot of wine today, so I'm not in a very good state. Please don't take offense to my poor singing." Everyone laughed and clapped, giving him encouragement and support. Yixian seemed to have obtained strength from the applause, and his mental state instantly rose. His entire person immediately became very different, as if he was filled with vitality and the desire to sing loudly. "Then I'll play this song for everyone. It's my favorite song, Breaking Dawn." The applause instantly became several times more enthusiastic. Lu Chan was also applauding. He nodded to himself, thinking that his colleague was definitely experienced in controlling the scene. There were many kinds of singers. Some singers were only good at performing in the recording studio, while some singers performed better in big occasions. Their ability to control the scene was often very strong. A brilliant singer could easily stir up the atmosphere of the scene and firmly grasp the emotions of the audience. It was very easy to complete a successful performance. The scene in front of him was very small, but Yixian had only used a few words and the aura he'd brewed to completely turn La Dolce Vita 97 into his home ground. It was obvious that he was well aware of the profoundness within. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Yixian's singing ability was also very strong. This Breaking Dawn wasn't his own work, but the famous work of Xiangjiang's heavenly king Lu Gangxin. It could be said to be a household name in Xiangjiang. There were many singers in Hong Kong who had covered this song. Because everyone was too familiar with it, the standard of evaluation was very high. If one wanted to cover Breaking Dawn without enough strength, he would definitely be asking for humiliation. Breaking Dawn wasn't a fast song or a slobbering song. It had a high requirement for singing skills. Under the accompaniment of the bar band, Yixian held the microphone and sang very engrossed. His voice was slightly sharp and resounding, and he was able to control the high notes of the song with ease. When it came to the climax of the chorus, it was quite shocking. If there was a flaw, it would be that the depth of the middle and low voice was not deep enough, causing this classic work to sound a little lacking in thickness and not thought-provoking. After Yixian finished singing Breaking Dawn, the entire bar was in an uproar. "Another song!" Someone shouted loudly. His words were immediately echoed by countless people. After singing the difficult Breaking Dawn, Yixian's forehead was already covered in sweat. He smiled and waved his hand, saying, "Thank you, everyone. Tonight, everyone is happy. I can't break the rules of the competition, so I can only apologize." He inserted the microphone back into the rack, then returned to his seat. Yixian's friend smiled and said, "I knew it was right to pull you over. This time, I saved at least a few thousand yuan." There were 5 or 6 friends sitting with Yixian. They couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. A girl pursed her lips and laughed. "I should have called for a few more bottles of red wine just now." Actually, none of them were lacking in money, but it was always very happy to be able to take advantage of them. Moreover, they had a lot of face to take advantage of. Yixian modestly said, "Don't be happy too early. There's still a few more to go on stage." "Tisk," his friend disdainfully said, "unless Heavenly King Lu personally comes, tonight's champion will definitely be you, Brother Xian." This flattery was a bit too much. Yixian could only bitterly smile. He couldn't possibly retort and slap his friend in the face, right? "I wonder how many more there are." The girl looked around and suddenly revealed a surprised expression. Number 13 is a handsome guy." The word handsome was quite attractive. Everyone couldn't help but turn their heads to look at the stage. What a handsome guy. At this moment, the person on stage was the handsome number 13, Lu Chun. "Good luck." Li Jun clapped her hands with all her might to cheer for her boss. The influence of the beauty wasn't weak either. Many guests gave face and applauded to express their encouragement. Actually, everyone looked at Lu Chan with a bit of sympathy. Because Yixian's previous performance was so brilliant, the pressure on him was extremely great. Fortunately, Lu Chan was tall and handsome enough to at least pull back some impressions, especially for the female guests. "Good luck, handsome guy." A crisp voice came from the crowd, causing a burst of laughter. Lu Chan smiled faintly and asked the guitarist of the band, "Do you have a spare guitar?" For most guitarists, their instruments were second lives or wives and lovers. Normally, they wouldn't lend them to others to use, which was why Lu Chun asked to borrow a spare one. The guitarist was surprised. "You want to play and sing by yourself?" Lu Chun nodded. The guitarist was very straightforward. He directly handed the guitar he was holding to Lu Chun, "Then use mine. The tone is accurate." Lu Chun took it. "Thank you." He asked for another stool, adjusted the height of the microphone, and sat down. La Dolce Vita 97 bar became very quiet. Even the bartender put down the wine jug in his hand. They all wanted to see what kind of performance this handsome guy would bring to everyone. Playing and singing? It seemed like he had some standards. Chapter 440. Singers who could play and sing by themselves would always be looked up to by people, because such singers were often not too bad, and many of them had personalities and characteristics, often inadvertently surprising people. As for amateur singers who dared to play and sing by themselves on stage for people to appreciate and evaluate, they were either not strong enough but overconfident, or they really had some level of skill. Lu Chan looked like the kind of person who had a level of skill. He was calm and confident enough. In other words, it was a typhoon. He was very good and did not have stage fright. Such people usually had 70 to 80% of their strength and could often play out 100%. So although there was no suspense about the result, everyone still had some expectations for him and listened very carefully. Lu Chan held the guitar and coughed, then said to the microphone, "It's my first time in Xianjiang and also my first time in Lan Kwai Fong and La Dolce Vita 97. Everything here has surprised me. It's a pity that I didn't bring my girlfriend with me this time. I believe she will also like it here." Everyone gave him face and applauded for Lu Chen's praise for La Dolce Vita 97. No one thought that Lu Chen was not from Xianjiang, and it was his first time in Lan Kwai Fong. That was interesting. Lu Chen continued. Then I saw that there were a lot of couples in the bar, so I sang a love song. May all the lovers in the world be together, and lonely people can also find their other half. The applause became louder. Lu Chen smiled and said, "The name of this song is called The Love of a Lifetime, and it's for all the lovers." He gently plucked the strings and began his own singing. On this strange and familiar stage. If you wait foolishly, one day you can finally wait the love of a lifetime. Who cares that our love often encounters accidents and is not clear about the future? Who would like the love of my heart, watching the sea alone every day? I would rather not speak for a lifetime. Don't want to lie to you. Pay attention to our love. You will find a little distance between us. Love without words. I don't dare to say, I want to be with you. The Love of My Life was a Cantonese song, and it was Lu Chen's first Cantonese work. It seemed a bit childish to sing it for the first time here, but as the saying goes, words are the voice of the heart, and songs are to express one's aspiration. Singing when you want to sing, not for profit or fame, is the true nature of a real singer. The Love of My Life was a gentle and affectionate song. What it sang was the singer's desire for love. It was the persistence and expectation of love. It was a love song that could undoubtedly become a classic. Lu Chen's interpretation of the song was deep and restrained. Every word and sentence contained his inner feelings, which gave his singing a unique charm. It made people involuntarily listen carefully and then sink into it without any resistance and be deeply affected. La Dolce Vita 97 suddenly became very quiet. People listened to this song that they had never heard before. Every word, every sentence, every sigh, it was as if they were under a spell. No one said a word. Even the waitresses hid in the corner. All eyes were on Lu Chen. Li Jun bit her lip, not letting the excitement in her heart show. She knew that Lu Chen was very good, but the feeling brought by listening to Lu Chen's playing and singing on the spot was not something that could be described and carried by a few pages of text. Chun Jiming looked like he had seen a ghost. He had already tried his best to overestimate Lu Chen's level, especially after Lu Chen borrowed the guitar. However, the truth was often more cruel than imagined. Not only was Lu Chen not crushed by Yi Xian, but he also had the momentum to crush the other party. How could Chun Jiaming endure this? His little scheme just now was so laughable. Chun Jiaming's face was burning. Among the people present, perhaps he was the only one who was still absent-minded. Fortunately, no one paid attention to him. The people at Yi Xian's table were basically stunned. They originally thought that they would win for sure. Yi Xian would crush the entire audience without any suspense. They never thought that a handsome guy who could play and sing would suddenly appear, and he could even sing so well. Those who knew the ropes could naturally tell that Lu Chen's guitar skills were very high. His voice had a special quality, and his singing skills were even more extraordinary. Whether it was the change in aura or the handling of details, he was very familiar with them. The most rare thing was that the emotions contained in the song were sincere and warm, very touching. Such a level of strength was probably something that most professional singers could not compare to. Could it be that the pop music in the mainland had developed to such a terrifying level that any one of them could make their opponents feel ashamed? One of them felt that Lu Chun looked a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Yi Xian's expression became very serious. He stared at Lu Chun, who was sitting on the stage, and fell into deep thought. If it was real, if it was fake, if you could play the role of yourself, you would give the gentleness in your heart to your only confidant. Like a fool, like a drunkard, I hope you know how to cherish yourself. One day, even if we are separated, I miss you, I really miss you. If I wait foolishly, one day I will finally be able to wait. The love of my life. The climax of the song was undoubtedly the most exciting. The first part of the song was a gentle whisper, and when it came to the chorus, the emotions were immediately raised. The sound went straight to the heartstrings, giving people a strong sense of impact. If a person waited foolishly, would there be a day when we would be able to wait for the person we love the most in our lives? And when we meet the only one in our lives, when we face difficulties, even though we clearly don't know the future, will we still be able to hold each other's hands until our hair turns white? This song was sung to people with the deepest true feelings. When Lu Chan finished playing the last note, applause erupted in the bar a moment later. Clapping, shouting, whistling. Young people were always direct when they expressed their love. There were also a few girls who picked up the roses in the vase on the table and rushed up to the stage to give them to Lu Chun. This meant that they had decided on Lu Chun. A flower was a vote. Among all the contestants who went on stage before, only Yi Xian had such treatment, and he was a singer. Xuan'ai opened her mouth in disbelief and muttered, "Is this for real? Ajun, isn't your colleague too amazing? Why doesn't he become an artist? He will definitely be famous all over the world." This Xiangjiang girl suddenly felt that even if Lu Chun was living off a woman, he was still relying on his strength to do so. Li Jun hesitated for a moment, but still took the initiative to reveal the truth. "Actually, Lu Chun is not my colleague, but my new boss. He is the most famous young singer in the mainland, and he has also starred in 2 TV series with extremely high ratings. He is also an A-list celebrity in the mainland, and he writes a song for someone else for 1,000,000 yuan. Xuan'ai, Chun Jiaming, and the others were all dumbfounded. Note, the love of your life, lyrics, Xiang Xuehui, /composer, Wu Sikai. Chapter 441. Li Jun's new boss, the most famous young singer in the mainland, the star of 2 highly rated TV series, the A-list star whose works cost millions of dollars. Li Jun's friends felt like they were listening to a fairy tale. They were all stunned. It was a very unreal feeling. When they first met Lu Chun, they first felt that he was very handsome, a real handsome guy from the mainland. Then, he talked well, was kind and easygoing, like a big boy next door, which was very likable. Xuan'ai was immediately moved and boldly confessed to him. But to everyone's surprise, not only did Lu Chun have a girlfriend, but it seemed that he was relying on her. This made Li Jun's friends' evaluation of Lu Chun a lot lower. Now Lu Chun was playing and singing on the acting stage, but Li Jun told everyone that he was a big star, which was hard for them to accept for a while. Li Jun was also helpless, because even if she deliberately hid it, she wouldn't hide it for too long. When the truth was exposed, it would be very embarrassing in front of her friends. It's true, I'm not lying to you. Faced with her friend's bewilderment, Li Jun had to explain, you can go to the internet and you will know. My boss's girlfriend is Chun Fei. You should know Chun Fei, right? And he and Chun Fei starred in the TV series Autumn in My Life and Death and Full of Romance. I suggest you watch them. Speaking of this, Li Jun's pretty face was a little red. Because not long ago, like these friends, she only cared about the news in the Hong Kong entertainment industry. Only watched the TV series and variety shows produced by Hong Kong TV stations and only played on the local BBS. This was actually a common problem in Hong Kong. Most people lacked understanding of the situation in the mainland, and they would not take the initiative to care about it. Li Jun felt that at that time, she and her friends were all frogs at the bottom of a well, staying in the small world of Hong Kong and ignoring the real wonderful world outside. His girlfriend is Chun Fei. Shui and I covered her face and said coquettishly, "Ah, Jun, you're so bad. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You made me lose face." The people of Xiangjiang didn't know many mainland stars, but Chun Fei was one of them. She once came to Xiangjiang's Hong Hom Stadium to hold a concert and also released her own album in Xiangjiang, so she had a certain degree of fame. No matter how confident Shui and I was, she didn't dare to say that she could get a share of the loot from Chun Fei. Li Jun smiled bitterly and said, "Who asked you to be so horny so quickly? Didn't I tell you now?" Shui and I hugged her. "No, you have to compensate me." The two women laughed, and Lu Chun, who was on the stage, returned the guitar to the guitarist of the bar band. The latter's face was filled with admiration. Once he received it, he gave Lu Chun a thumbs up. "How sharp." Lu Chun smiled and said, "Thank you for the guitar." Right at this moment, Yi Xian strode onto the stage and arrived in front of Lu Chun. "Hello." Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he took the initiative to extend his hand towards Lu Chun. "I'm Yi Xian." "Hello." Lu Chun shook hands with him. "My name is Lu Chun." Yi Xian impatiently asked, "I would like to ask, who wrote this song of yours? Who is the original singer?" As a local singer of Xiangjiang, although Yi Xian's position in the pop music world wasn't very high, he graduated from the Nine Dragons Music Academy. Putting aside his singing ability, his eyesight and experience were both top-notch. Yi Xian had never heard of the song that Lu Chun had just sung, "The Love of My Life." This made him extremely curious. One had to know that as long as such an outstanding Cantonese song was released, he would definitely have heard of it. Moreover, this song shouldn't have been a nameless song. It was precisely this intense curiosity in pursuit of the truth that caused Yi Xian to rush back onto the stage to ask for the answer in front of everyone. He couldn't wait to know the original author. As a singer, his keen sense of smell made Yi Xian realize that this might be an opportunity for him. If he could buy this song, Yi Xian stared fixedly at Lu Chun, waiting for the answer he was looking for. Faced with Yi Xian's barrage of questions, Lu Chun was a little surprised. He said, "Let's go down and talk." Only then did Yi Xian realize that his actions were inappropriate. He couldn't help but blush as he hurriedly said, "All right." The two of them walked off the stage together. Most of the guests in the bar didn't know what was going on. When they saw Yi Xian shake hands with Lu Chun and exchange pleasantries, they thought that this singer appreciated Lu Chun and specially went up on stage to encourage the latter. Thus, everyone applauded. Yi Xian directly invited Lu Chun over to his side to sit down. Lu Chun didn't refuse. After greeting Li Jun, he calmly sat beside Yi Xian. Yi Xian's friends sized up Lu Chun with curious gazes. One of the girls looked especially serious and careful. Before Yi Xian could introduce her, she suddenly asked, Have you filmed a TV series before?" Lu Chun smiled and nodded. "Yes." The girl's eyes immediately lit up and she asked, "Is it Blue Love? Are you called Lu Chun?" Lu Chun couldn't help but rub his nose and say, "It's me." "Ah." The girl immediately let out a scream, and her eyes were filled with stars. "It really is you. It really is you. In Juanxi. I'm a fan of yours." She was so excited that her face was flushed red. It was the kind of excitement that a brainless fan would have when she saw her idol. If it wasn't for the fact that the occasion wasn't suitable, she would probably have directly pounced on Lu Chun and hugged him. Yi Xian and his other friends looked at each other in dismay. Yi Xian couldn't help but ask, "Ah Fong, you said he's an actor?" The girl nodded her head vigorously and stared at Lu Chun. "Yes, when did you come to Xianjiang?" Lu Chun smiled and said, "I just came a few days ago." Yi Xian had no choice but to interrupt their conversation. He realized that the development of the situation seemed to have gotten out of his control. "Lu Chun, that song just now," Lu Chun replied, "I wrote that song myself, and it's the first time I've sung it in public." He understood Yi Xian's thoughts. But Lu Chun wouldn't sell this song to anyone else. Yi Xian was stunned. When Ah Fong said that Lu Chun was an actor, Yi Xian didn't care too much. But now that he heard Lu Chun say that the song "The Love of My Life" came from him, Yi Xian was truly shocked. Ah Fong giggled and said, "Brother Lu Chun is very famous in the mainland. He's a singer and has already released 2 albums, right? All the works in his album were written by himself. He's a very good singer." Her understanding of Lu Chun all came from the internet. She specially searched for it after watching Autumn in My Heart. Yi Xian finally realized that he'd underestimated Lu Chun. Chapter 442. La Dolce Vita 97 had been operating in Lan Kwai Fong for more than 20 years, and it was only in recent years that the LDV King of Singing Awards was held. But because it was held every week, it had accumulated quite a lot of times. And tonight's LDV Singing King competition was undoubtedly quite special. First, the singer Yi Xian appeared on stage. His song Breaking Dawn won the applause of the audience. However, just when everyone thought that there was no longer any suspense in the outcome of the competition, Lu Chun, who came on stage behind Yi Xian, stunned the audience with his song The Love of My Life. This made the guests in the bar feel a different kind of musical charm, and also made the final outcome confusing. As for the contestants who were ranked at the end, they were basically there to watch the show. When all the performances were over, it was time to vote. As expected, the number of flowers obtained by Lu Chun and Yi Xian rose alternately, showing a stalemate. In the end, Yi Xian received 57 flowers, while Lu Chun received 57. He was actually defeated by Yi Xian by only 1 flower. This result was actually very normal. After all, Yi Xian was a well-known local singer, and Lu Chun was a mainlander who came to Lan Kwai Fong for the first time. No matter how good his singing was, the majority of the guests in the bar were from Xianjiang. In their opinion, Lu Chun only lost 1 flower, which was already a glorious defeat. However, Yi Xian didn't approve of this result. It wasn't that the gap was too small, but that he thought that tonight's champion should be Lu Chun's. Because Lu Chun had taken out an original work, he was a cover of Lu Tian Wang. This was the biggest difference. Yi Xian especially wanted to find the owner of La Dolce Vita 97 bar. After some negotiation, the owner announced that he would give his flower to Lu Chun. In this way, the two of them tied and won the championship at the same time. Both of them won the reward of a free bill and a free red wine. Actually, whether it was Lu Chun or Yi Xian, they didn't lack this little bit of money. It was just that they had friends at night, so they were having a good time. Everyone being happy was truly happy. As the saying goes, if you don't fight, you won't get to know each other. After this small competition, Lu Chun got to know Yi Xian, a local singer. Yi Xian also got to know Lu Chun, a singer from the mainland. Although he wasn't able to obtain the authorization for The Love of My Life as he wished, Yi Xian still enthusiastically invited Lu Chun to participate in a Hong Kong singer's music gathering. Lu Chun didn't play very late at La Dolce Vita 97. Although Xiangjiang's nightlife had just begun, he was already used to sleeping early and waking up early. Thus, after saying goodbye to Yi Xian and Li Zhen's friends, he returned to his residence. After returning to his apartment and taking a shower, Lu Chun thought for a moment and sent a message to Chen Fei-er. He didn't expect Chen Fei-er to call back so quickly. Lu Chun was surprised. It's so late, and you're still awake? What are you doing? Chen Feier said coquettishly. I can't sleep. I just lay down on the bed and wanted to sleep when I received your message. What's wrong? Lu Chen smiled and said, Nothing. I just miss you. Chen Feier giggled and said, Xu Jing called me in the evening and said that you were very popular at her charity dinner. A song was sold at a sky-high price of millions. Madame Jean sent 2 goddaughters eagerly. Aren't they beautiful? Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What? It's just a deal. She paid for it, and I just contributed a little. Chen Feier would actually be jealous, but she was very cute when she was a little jealous. Humph, I don't think you dare to have any playful thoughts, Chen Feier said coquettishly. I have a lot of informants in Xianjiang. They can keep an eye on you all the time. Lu Chen smiled and said, How can there be such a powerful informant? It's better for you to come and keep an eye on me. Chen Feier sighed and said, If I knew this, I wouldn't have accepted this movie. I can't leave for at least a year. I have to travel all over the country. I'm so tired. She was currently filming a big drama produced by CCTV. It was a big investment, and there were many stars. The shooting period would take at least a year, so even if she wanted to come to Xianjiang, she might not have the time. Although it was a joke, Chen Feier was really a little worried about Lu Chen's career in Xianjiang. Although Lu Chen's character was trustworthy, they were not married after all. It was hard to guarantee that no one would covet this piece of Tang Seng's meat. Especially in Xianjiang, it was a special zone that allowed people to marry more than one wife. Lu Chen was very young, super handsome, and outstanding talent. In the eyes of any woman, he was definitely a diamond-level bachelor and would be popular everywhere. Of course, Chen Feier was confident in himself, but he couldn't stand the fact that the two of them were in different places. And Xianjiang was also a famous nest of beauties. When it came to emotional issues, the Heavenly Queen was also selfish, so she couldn't help but give him a warning. She also complained. Lu Chen comforted Chen Feier with a few gentle words, coaxing Chen Feier's heart to feel sweet. In the end, Chen Feier said, It's not easy for Sister Xu Jing now. If you can help her more. No matter how glorious she was in the past, the current Xu Jing was no longer her original identity. Her return to the entertainment industry was more like a gamble. If she lost, she might lose everything. She couldn't afford to fail again. They were both women and good friends, so Chen Feier was willing to let Lu Chen help. Lu Chen said, I know. Speaking of this, his heart moved, and he chatted with Chen Feier about going to Langue Fong to play at night. Of course, it also included getting to know Yi Xian. Chen Feier didn't know Yi Xian, nor did she care. She was very envious of Lu Chen's ease. Next time I come to Xianjiang, we'll go to La Dolce Vita 97 together. I know about this bar, but I've never been there before. It sounds very interesting. When the time comes, you can sing for me again. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll sing it for you now. There was no need to find a guitar to accompany him. Lu Chen directly sang into the microphone. If you wait foolishly, one day, you will finally be able to wait for the love of your life. Who would mind our relationship? Every time we encounter an accident, we don't know the future. When he sang the love of a lifetime again, he sang it for only one person. A person who really wanted to sing it to her, gentle and affectionate. If it's real, if it's fake, if you can play yourself, you will give the gentleness in your heart to your only confidant. Chen Feier listened quietly without saying a word. After Lu Chen finished singing, he asked softly, Are you listening? What answered him was the sound of even and long breathing. The person on the other side of the phone had already fallen asleep. The corner of Lu Chen's mouth curled up into a smile, his eyes filled with tenderness. He didn't end the call immediately. Instead, he listened to Chen Feier's breathing, as if she was by his side. Outside the window, the moonlight was like water, and the night was gentle. Chapter 443. Some people were singing, some people were dancing, some people were playing, and some people were laughing. The night in Xianjiang was never peaceful. Therefore, when many people had already fallen asleep, there were still many people who were still enjoying life or busy with their daily tasks. On the 27th floor of Block B, Longqing Building 269, Guangming Road, Queens Road West, the editorial office of Polo Daily was brightly lit, and a group of newspaper editors were working nervously in front of the computer. Polo Daily was one of the free newspapers with the largest circulation in Xinjiang, with a daily circulation of more than 700,000, so it had a great influence in Xinjiang. This newspaper, aimed at the general public, had always been known for its fast, accurate, and ruthless reporting of social news. Fast refers to the speed at which they publish news, although it can't be compared to the internet. Even if the news just happened tonight, when the citizens wake up tomorrow morning, they can see the relevant reports and comments at the newsstand or in their own mailbox. Accurate referred to their accurate positioning of news, aiming at the social hotspots and entertainment gossip of Xinjiang and grasping the tastes and hobbies of the general public, so the circulation was high. As for ruthless, it had a rich meaning. The paparazzi of Polo Daily were ruthless in grabbing news, and their editors were also ruthless in writing. Specifically speaking, it was enough to write a thick storybook. With these 3 words and the strategy of free distribution, Polo Daily, which had been established for less than 10 years, fought its way out of many competitors in Xinjiang and became the leader of the newspaper industry. In the editor-in-chief's office, Editor-in-Chief Li Wan sat at the desk and reviewed the sample newspaper that had just been printed. This was his daily work, or he would not be able to sleep well. The success of Polo Daily was inseparable from the hard work of the former deputy editor-in-chief of a famous newspaper. Although he was over 40 years old, he was still as energetic as many young people. Editor-in-Chief Li, a skinny young man with a camera on his back, rushed in and shouted, "I got a piece of news about Xu Jing." His voice was so loud that everyone in the editorial office could hear him clearly. The editorial office of Polo Daily was an open office. Although editor-in-chief, Li Wan had an independent office, he could clearly see the inside and outside of the office through the large floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Unless there was something very important or very private, the door to his office was always open. Certain staff members did not need to announce or even knock on the door to directly barge in and report to him. This seemingly unruly rule allowed Li Wan to firmly control the Polo Daily's affairs. His prestige among the newspaper reporters and editors was unmatched even by the boss. The young man who had just barged in was one of the entertainment reporters hired by Polo Daily, commonly known as paparazzi. Li Wan put down the printed sample in her hand and looked at him with a faint smile. "Xiao Ho, you won't make a mistake again this time, right?" Xiao Ho's face turned red. He quickly raised the camera in his hand and said, "It's true this time. Tonight, Xu Jing held a charity dinner at the Shangri-La Hotel. After it ended, she went to Lantern Coffee with a handsome guy, and then, quick, let me see." Li Wan's interest was immediately piqued. She took Xiao Ho's camera and skillfully connected it to the computer with a data cable. She retrieved the photos from the memory card and watched them. Xu Jing used to be a pop diva in the music industry. After marrying into a wealthy family, she retired from the entertainment industry. A few years ago, her divorce caused an uproar, and she was still a very popular figure in the industry. Xu Jing was both a star and a socialite, which was quite newsworthy. She had not been dating anyone for a few years after her divorce. If the photos Xiao Ho took could prove her new relationship, it was completely worthy of being in the headlines. "This one, look at this one. And this one." Xiao Ho stood next to her, pointing and explaining nervously. "There was a traffic jam in Central at night. I could have come earlier, but I was stuck on the road." As a newcomer, Xiao Ho's seniority in Polo Daily was very shallow. Due to his lack of experience, he made a fool of himself when he snatched the news last time, which made him very embarrassed in front of his colleagues. This time, he squatted and followed Xu Jing, and with patience and luck, he finally took some valuable photos. However, Xiao Ho was also very worried that if other colleagues were also present, his exclusive rights would be gone. Therefore, it was most important to be on the front page as soon as possible. Li Wan waved his hand. He had seen the important photos, and to be honest, he was a little disappointed because Xu Jing was with a handsome man, but both of them were accompanied by assistants or friends, so there was no intimate action taken. It was obviously not convincing to use these photos to prove that she had a new lover, but Xiaoho chose two good angles, which gave people a feeling of intimacy when singled out. However, Li Wan searched in his mind, but he could not recognize the tall and handsome young man as an entertainer in the entertainment circle or a descendant of a famous family. Of course, Hong Kong was so big, and there were countless outstanding young people. So it was normal for Xu Jing to find a lover who was unknown to people outside the circle, but the identity of the other party would definitely not be very simple. He thought for a moment and immediately made a decision. I'll give you a position on the B page. Use these photos and ask Xiao Zhang to immediately rearrange the page and add a title. After proofreading, send it to the printer immediately. Free newspapers like Polo Daily, which mainly focused on social news and entertainment news, usually had big headlines, big pictures, and few words. Big headlines were often bigger than the font size of the masthead, with exaggerated and sensational colors, interspersed with pictures, supplemented with a small number of explanatory words, which was completely different from the serious newspapers such as Current Affairs and professional ones. One advantage of this style of typesetting was that it was very easy to change the page. It was common to temporarily change the content of the page before printing, so the editors had long been used to it. The B page was the second page, second only to the front page. Xiaoho was already overjoyed. An editor complained, "Xiaoho, you've really made it this time. We have to work overtime because of you. You have to treat us." Little Ho chuckled foolishly. Sitting in the office, Li Wan couldn't help laughing. He held the mouse and found the previous photos. For some reason, the chief editor felt that the young man who had coffee with Xu Jing in the evening was a little familiar. Out of professional sensitivity, he had to think carefully. Maybe it would be a big news. At the same time, on the pop music section of Hong Kong's largest BBS forum, someone had just posted a video. The title was, "Has anyone heard this song?" Chapter 444. Xiangjiang was the gateway to South China and the mainland's bridgehead to South Asia and the Western world. Since the beginning of the last century, Xiangjiang's economic development had always been ahead of the domestic and had long reached the standards of developed countries. However, since the beginning of the new century, especially after the explosion of the internet industry, Xiangjiang gradually fell behind, especially in the IT industry. There were only a few local high-tech companies in Xiangjiang, and the talents trained by the University of Technology often chose to go to domestic or foreign countries to develop. The unique cultural atmosphere, the lag of the industrial system, and the rapid and intense pace of life and work led to the average time spent on the internet for young people in Xiangjiang. The internet space that young people in Xiangjiang usually liked to browse and communicate was mainly concentrated in a few big BSS or large foreign social network service sites, and finally Hong Kong blogs in Xiangjiang. Other than professionals, very few people liked to browse domestic websites. Even if the domestic websites were far more developed than Xiangjiang, young people in Xiangjiang rarely interacted with domestic netizens. Pride and isolation were the portrayal of them. Therefore, the internet circle of Xiangjiang was a relatively closed virtual world. The Hong Kong Forum was undoubtedly one of the biggest fortresses in this world. Most people had their own accounts on this BBS website. The Hong Kong Forum account was also connected to the Hong Kong blog. The combination of the two was basically the online home of the people in Xiangjiang. If you want to know about the big and small things in Xiangjiang, you could get first-hand information on the Hong Kong Forum and blog. The Hong Kong Forum had a total of 12 main sections, and the pop music section was one of them. Has anyone heard this song? The post was uploaded at 11 o'clock in the evening. There were many netizens in the section. Most of them were fans of pop music, and there were even some professional singers. Xiangjiang's pop music started in the 1970s. Like Xiangjiang's movies, it had a glorious period. A large number of Xiangjiang singers, represented by Cantonese songs, had a high reputation in the mainland. Although Xiangjiang's pop music was showing a trend of decline and had fallen into an embarrassing situation in recent years, the number of fans was still quite large. Therefore, the popularity of the pop music section had always been very high. Similar posts were very common, and many enthusiastic netizens clicked on the post. The poster's name was Vivian, and she was registered as a girl. She wrote in her post, "Tonight, I went to Rendezvous Audiobook with my friends to play. At La Dolce Vita 97, I happened to run into the LDV Singing King award held by the bar. Then I unexpectedly saw Yi Xian singing on stage, a song by Lu Tian Wang, Breaking Dawn. Seeing this, everyone was a bit confused. Since Yi Xian was singing Lu Tian Wang's Breaking Dawn, then who hadn't heard of this song? He didn't expect Vivian to not waste any ink on Yi Xian. She focused on the participant that appeared after Yi Xian. She used exaggerated and enthusiastic strokes to describe how handsome this participant was, how good his singing was, and how touching it was. Finally, she desperately wanted to know where she could download the original version of this contestant's song. At the end of the post, there was a video taken by a mobile phone. This strange turn of the road, this exaggerated tone, made many of the single members of the forum feel very unhappy. Many people secretly suspected that it was deliberately hyping up and stepping on Yi Xian to rise to the top. It was not surprising that there was such a guess. Right now, the pop music world of Xiangjiang was in chaos. In order to gain a higher position, new artists and singers used all kinds of unscrupulous means to hype up. Naturally, the pop music section could not escape the influence of this trend. But regardless of whether it was a hype or not, everyone clicked on a video. They decided to take a look first. If it was really a hype, then regardless of whether the original poster was a girl or not, they would definitely scold her and ask the moderator to delete the post. Needless to say, this 7-minute video was a recording of Lu Chun singing The Love of My Life at La Dolce Vita 97, from the moment he went on stage to the moment Yi Xian appeared. After watching the video, the forum members who boasted of themselves as veterans fell into a short period of silence. A large number of replies appeared after a few minutes. "I've never heard this song before, but to be fair, it's a very good work. I agree with the 7th floor. It's a good song, but I've never heard it before. I can't find it on the internet. Since it could be an original work, I can only say that this singer is very good. Well, his guitar playing is very sharp, and his singing level is very high. You should be a professional. Really? Hey, he's so handsome and powerful. You should have been famous long ago. Why haven't I seen him before? Could be a new debut. Didn't you all pay attention?" He said he came from the mainland, and it was his first time playing in Rendezvous Audiobook. Mainland? Damn it. Let's not talk about it for now. I'll take down the score of this song first. Good song. Although there were a lot of doubts and puzzlement, most people in the pop music section thought that this The Love of My Life was a very outstanding Cantonese work. They expressed shock and surprise that Lu Chun, who sang this song, was from the mainland. It was common for Hong Kong singers to go to the mainland to sing Mandarin songs, but it was really rare for mainland singers to come to Hong Kong to sing Cantonese songs. There are also a few famous ones, but Lu Chun was definitely not one of them. In fact, none of these forum veterans who participated in the discussion recognized Lu Chun, until an ID called 3 Bowls of Wine appeared. Haha, you don't believe me when I say you're ignorant. Do you know who this is? It's ridiculous to say that Yi Xian is hyped up. Compare with this guy. Yi Xian is only good enough to carry shoes. You guys are all frogs at the bottom of a well. As soon as 3 Bowls of Wine read the post, the comments section immediately exploded. Old wine, if you have something to say, just say it. What kind of hero are you to hide it? Forgive me for being ignorant. Throw your mother away. F***CK your lungs, loser. God of Wine, please explain. 3 Bowls of Wine was famous in the pop music and film and TV talk sections of Hong Kong's BBS. He was known for his high professionalism, sharp comments, and poisonous tongue. Fans called him God of Wine, and haters scolded him as Broken Bowl. He could be considered a topical figure. His fighting ability was absolutely superb, and his ability to attract hatred was first class. With a few words, he provoked a battle in the forum section and dragged a group of people into the water. As a result, who has heard this song? This post became popular, and it quickly reached the front page of the BBS, and then was seen by the administrator and pinned to the top. Along with the song, The Love of My Life, more and more netizens in Hong Kong knew. Chapter 445. Viviani's Who Has Heard This Song? The post was posted on the pop music section of the Hong Kong forum at 11:10 a.m. Within half an hour, the post had become one of the hottest posts on the homepage of the Hong Kong forum. It had over 20,000 views and over 1,000 replies. Although this number was nothing compared to the hottest posts in some of the popular forums in China, it was already the hottest post in the Hong Kong forum. 3 bowls of liquor. His venomous words played an important role. Many members of the forum were enraged by his words. They used all kinds of obscenities to attack him. The moderator had to delete the comments and warn him. As a result, the popularity of the post continued to increase after midnight. More and more people participated in the discussion. As the original poster, Viviani obviously did not expect that her post would cause a war. After posting for more than an hour, she timidly asked 3 bowls of liquor who this handsome guy was. Only then did everyone realize that they had been arguing for a long time and still did not know who the main character was. 3 bowls of liquor was obviously friendlier to the girl. He replied, "This handsome guy who plays the guitar and sings is called Lu Chun. He is the leader of the new generation of the Chinese pop music industry. It has only been a year since his debut, and he has already released 2 albums. He also filmed 2 TV series. Not only did he set a record for the audience in China, he also won great success in Korea. That's why I said you were all ignorant. You only know about Hong Kong forums and blogs. You don't know how exciting the outside world is. Now the mainland's entertainment industry has already surpassed Xinjiang. There are many talented people in the pop music and film industry. The market scale and development potential are many times greater than Xinjiang. 3 bowls of liquor." S reply to Viviani was like a big stone thrown into a deep pool. It immediately caused countless waves and ripples. In just a few minutes, a large number of replies appeared. Some were surprised, some were praising, but most were criticizing. Some even called 3 bowls of liquor a Hong Kong traitor. 3 bowls of liquor. S reply really hit the sore spot of many people. It was also the sore spot of many people in Xinjiang. That was, the current mainland was surpassing Xinjiang in all aspects. But most people in Xinjiang were still immersed in the glory of the past, unwilling to recognize the development and progress of the country, and always had a sense of superiority in the past. This kind of social atmosphere was reflected in the public opinion media. That was, the local TV stations, newspapers, and magazines' reports on China were basically focused on politics, and social news and entertainment news were very rare. Most of the news was about natural disasters and man-made disasters, and the people of Xinjiang didn't like to read other news. Therefore, when Lu Chun came to Xinjiang for the first time after just over a year, most people did not know him, nor did they know his identity. 3 bowls of wine was obviously not one of them. In the face of the tidal wave of attacks, he remained unmoved, as steady as Mount Tai, and sent another reply. Some people are always pretending to be asleep. Let me tell you about the achievements of this Lu Chun in China. His first album, You Who Sat Next to Me, has sold more than 2 million, and his second album, The Ordinary Road, has sold nearly 3 million, and is very likely to reach the crown achievement of 5 million. Not only that, Lu Chen's album Woman Flower for his girlfriend Chen Fei has sold more than 5 million, and the TV series Full House of Romance, which he created and starred in, has a rating of 42% in South Korea. Tell me, which singer in Xinjiang can have such achievements, and which TV series can have such a rating when exported to South Korea? If you don't believe me, then go search it on the domestic search engine. Don't say that you can't understand simplified Chinese. The common languages in Xinjiang included Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. There were more people who could speak Mandarin than before, but Xiangjiang's writing had always followed the traditional Chinese characters and did not follow the mainland's change to simplified Chinese. The debate between simplified and traditional Chinese characters had been going on for a long time, and Xiangjiang people were generally stubborn about the authentic traditional Chinese characters. This was also one of the important reasons why many Xiangjiang netizens refused to go to domestic websites. Even if many domestic websites and forums provided the function of converting between simplified and traditional Chinese characters. As soon as the heavy punch of over 3 bowls of wine came out, many people suddenly became silent. The 2 albums added up to 5 million sales, and the album produced by others also sold more than 5 million. In Xiangjiang 20 years ago, the big stars of the Xiangjiang music industry, who controlled the 2 major markets in Hong Kong and the mainland, could definitely win. But now it was better to save it. Everyone knew that Xiangjiang's pop music industry was very poor now. The strength of the new generation was insufficient, and the old singers were exhausted. The most important thing was that they had lost the big market in the mainland. It would be a great success if a new album could sell for hundreds of thousands. Moreover, singers and artists no longer relied on selling records to make money. They all took the so-called pan-entertainment route, and those excellent creators in the past had either withered or retired, and the original creators were getting fewer and fewer. Cantonese pop songs had not produced a real classic for a long time. Although there were still outstanding works, compared with the glory of the past, it really made people sigh. This song, The Love of My Life, played by Lu Chun and sung by himself, undoubtedly made people's eyes light up. To be fair, in recent years, there had not been a better work than it in Xiangjiang's pop music industry. But why was its singer and composer an artist from the mainland? Many forum members who had been arguing until they were dizzy finally woke up and began to rationally discuss the work itself, instead of the difference between Xiangjiang and the mainland. The night was long, and some people were not in the mood to sleep, and Lu Chun slept very soundly in his new home in Xiangjiang until he got up at 6 in the morning. After washing up, he habitually changed into sports, shoes, and clothes, then went out of the apartment and ran along the shore of the shallow bay beach. Finally, he found a secluded place to practice martial arts. After practicing until he came back drenched in sweat, not far from the apartment, Lu Chun bought a hot breakfast from the convenience store and prepared to take it home. When he paid, he suddenly saw the newspaper rack next to the cashier. On those dazzling and gaudy newspapers, there was a very familiar photo. These newspapers were all unfolded and hung in thick stacks. The newspaper that Lu Chun saw was called Polo Daily. The photo was published on the second page with a very eye-catching title. Xu Jing met a mysterious handsome man at night, suspected to have a new lover. Damn! Lu Chun couldn't help but curse. This photo was the scene of him sending Xu Jing to the car after drinking coffee with her last night. It was actually taken by paparazzi. Xiangjiang's paparazzi really deserved their reputation. Chapter 446. The entertainment reporters in Xiangjiang had the same origin as the notorious paparazzi in the UK, and they had the essence of the latter. Because the media in Xiangjiang was very developed, even in the age of the internet, the traditional TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines were still very powerful, and they competed for limited resources in a limited space. Therefore, most of the paparazzi in Xiangjiang had developed a special ability to follow, secretly take photos, and dig up the privacy of celebrities. Especially the celebrities in Xiangjiang, they all changed their faces when talking about paparazzi. Guarding against paparazzi was a basic skill, and those who didn't master this skill would be embarrassed sooner or later, unless they were clean and innocent. Therefore, there were many celebrities who quit the entertainment circle, which gave rise to sensational entertainment gossip, such as Triple X Door. Before coming to Xiangjiang, several of his friends in the circle, including Chen Fer, had warned Lu Chun that the paparazzi in Xiangjiang were very powerful, and he must be very careful not to let them have anything on him. Lu Chun kept that in mind, but after arriving in Xiangjiang, he found that the atmosphere here was special, and there were very few people who knew him, so he more or less slacked off. He didn't expect that he would be secretly photographed. In fact, he knew that it was useless for him to be careful, because Xu Jing was careful enough, and she also didn't expect it. Lu Chun couldn't help shaking his head, and reached out to take the Polo Daily. How much? The clerk replied, 50 cents. Polo Daily was a free daily, but it was not free to sell it in convenience stores or newsstands, so the 50 cents was the booth fee that the latter naturally earned. But this price was very cheap, because as a daily newspaper, Polo Daily had more than 20 pages, and it had enough materials, so it had a lot of weight in his hands. Lu Chun had some understanding of the media in Xiangjiang, and he knew that Polo Daily was a rising black horse in Xiangjiang in recent years, and its daily circulation was much higher than that of several old newspapers in the same industry, which was very powerful. He didn't expect that he would be on the second page of Polo Daily just a few days after coming to Xiangjiang. But what made Lu Chun dumbfounded was that in this sensationalist news article, he was just a mysterious man. What was even more outrageous was that the article even hinted that he might be Xu Jing's gigolo. If the owner of the Polo Daily was standing in front of Lu Chun at this moment, Lu Chun would not hesitate to throw the nonsense newspaper in his hand at his face. With breakfast and newspapers, Lu Chun returned home. After washing off his sweat, he had just changed into clean clothes when the phone on the coffee table rang. After the call was connected, Xu Jing's voice came through the phone. Lu Chun, I'm really sorry. Lu Chun understood as soon as he heard it. Do you want to talk about today's Polo Daily report? Xu Jing was surprised. You've seen it? Lu Chun laughed. Yes, I've seen the power of the Xiangjiang paparazzi. Xu Jing said apologetically. I'm sorry, it's my negligence that got you into trouble. I'll post a statement on my blog to explain. I'm sorry for the trouble. The blog she was talking about was not the Domestic Waves blog, but a Hong Kong blog. Lu Chun said, It's not your fault. You don't have to apologize. It's not a big deal. Countless precedents had proved that as a celebrity, it was not worth it to be angry with the media. Unless it was blatant malicious slander or fabrication, it was enough to clarify and laugh it off. Since he had come to Xiangjiang to develop his career, he must be familiar with and adapt to the rules here. Therefore, Lu Chun didn't take it to heart, and of course, he wouldn't blame Xu Jing. After chatting for a while, Lu Chun ended the call with Xu Jing. He thought for a while and called Chun Fei. The communication between the media in China and Xiangjiang was very poor, and gossip usually rarely appeared there. But now it was the age of the internet, and the transmission of information was very fast. Therefore, for the sake of safety, he had to tell Chun Fei about it. After all, it was a scandal. After listening to Lu Chun's words, Chun Fei laughed and shouted, Send this newspaper to me right now. I want to see the so-called mysterious man. Lu Chun was speechless. He had nothing to say to her. After breakfast, he went out to the studio. Today, he was going to visit a local film company with Xiaoquan, and Chen Wenxiang to discuss the cooperation of the new film. At the same time, Xu Jing posted a statement on her blog. The main content of the statement was to refute the report of Polo Daily. She explained the identity and background of Lu Chun in detail, and specifically said that it was the first time they met last night, and that they talked about her new album in the cafe. At the end of the blog post, Xu Jing also attached a photo of her and Lu Chun at the charity dinner at that time. Xu Jing was the queen of the music industry in Xiangjiang, so she naturally knew how to deal with this kind of gossip. She didn't cover up Lu Chun's identity, and frankly announced it to everyone, so that she could show her calmness. Don't make wild guesses. In the article, Xu Jing also ridiculed the ignorance of the paparazzi and editors of the Polo Daily. They didn't even know Lu Chun, who has recently become a hot topic in China and Korea. They even called him a mysterious man, which was ridiculous. Xu Jing had more than 500,000 fans on her blog in Hong Kong, which was much less than those big stars. But as soon as the post was published, it immediately received a lot of reposts and comments. The circle of Xiangjiang was actually very small, and when there was any news, it was often known by everyone. Anyway, Xu Jing was a celebrity, so it didn't take long for Li Wan, the editor-in-chief of Polo Daily, to know about it. After reading Xu Jing's post, he pondered for a moment, and then called Xiaohou back. When Xiaohou returned to the editorial department, Li Wan showed him the post. Xiaohou was shocked. Editor-in-chief Li Wan shook her head and stopped him from self-reflection. She said, "It's not your fault. Even I didn't recognize this Lu Chan. If we're talking about negligence, it's my fault first." Xiaohou felt like he had been pardoned, and he was very touched. Li Wan continued, "The first mistake can be forgiven, but not the second time. From today on, keep an eye on him. There must be a lot of information on him." The editor-in-chief of Polo Daily pointed at Lu Chan on the screen, who was smiling very handsomely in the photo. There was a sharp light in Li Wan's eyes, as if she was a hunter who had found a powerful prey. It was the first time that Xiaohou saw such a look in Li Wan's eyes, and he couldn't help but shiver. He seemed to smell the smoke of gunpowder. Chapter 447. Lu Chun didn't know that he had been targeted by the Polo Daily, and even if he knew, he couldn't do anything about it. The power of the Xiangjiang paparazzi was not just for show. They made the artists of Xiangjiang tremble with fear, but they were indispensable. The laws of Xiangjiang also favored the paparazzi stalking and secretly photographing to a certain extent. The only thing that could really teach them a lesson was the power of capital. Lu Chun had just arrived in Xiangjiang and had no capital, so he had to find a local film company to cooperate with for his first film to avoid all kinds of trouble. The suggestion of cooperation was made by Chen Wenxiang, and he also made a list of 3 film companies. These 3 film companies could not be compared with industry giants such as Jinrong, Wang Corporation, and Polaroid in terms of strength and influence, but they were all established companies with a wide range of connections. Most importantly, they would not have an amazing appetite like Jinrong. In the current situation of the industry's downturn, it was easy to reach cooperation conditions that satisfied both sides. However, the reality was a bit embarrassing. Chen Wenxiang had contacted 2 of the companies, but before he could discuss the specific conditions, he was politely declined by the other party, saying that they had new films to start and would not consider cooperating with others for the time being. In the final analysis, it was the disaster caused by the Xiangjiang government's film and television industry support plan. With this good news, many capable film companies were ready to do a big job, intending to use the new films to get into the huge mainland market. However, the quota of films entering the mainland was limited. Of course, they had to focus on ensuring their new films first. How could they be willing to cooperate with Lu Chin's studio, which had no reputation at all? Industry giants, such as Jinrong, certainly had the ability to produce 2 or 3 new films at the same time, but they were even more unreliable. Chen Wenxiang said frankly, "Jinrong and Wang Corporation can't even enter the door. They don't care about small people like me. Even if I spend money to find someone to smooth things over, I won't get anything in the end, and I'll be treated as a joke." Chen Wenxiang had obviously learned a painful lesson. Even Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting next to him, could hear the resentment and humiliation in his words. Lu Chan smiled faintly and said, "It doesn't matter. What we need now is a partner who can sincerely cooperate with us. As for the future, I think only others will come to us to beg for our cooperation." He said it very calmly, as if he was talking about a very ordinary fact. His words revealed a strong sense of confidence. Wan Xiaoquan agreed with him, but Chen Wenxiang didn't. He knew that Lu Chun was talented and famous in the mainland, but this was Hong Kong. Of course, Chen Wenxiang would not expose his inner thoughts on his face. He smiled and said, "Boss is right. Whether our studio can become famous in Hong Kong depends on this first movie." Chen Wenxiang then gave Lu Chun a detailed introduction. The only company he was interested in working with was Jiayang Pictures. Jiayang Pictures had been established for 30 years. It mainly produced medium and low-budget Hong Kong films. During the boom period of Hong Kong's film industry, it also had a glorious time and produced several blockbuster films. However, in the past 10 years, with the significant decline of Hong Kong's film industry, Jiang Pictures inevitably suffered a serious impact. Following the traditional pattern of shooting *T movies, they lost money one after another. At one point, they were facing the dilemma of going bankrupt and closing down. In 2012, Jiang Pictures was acquired by Zhou Yi, a businessman from Hong Kong. After a series of restructuring and integration, it finally got rid of the predicament of being unable to make ends meet and was barely able to maintain the situation. Zhou Yi is a real businessman, Chen Wenxiang commented. He only cares about profits, but he values credibility. When he acquired Jiang Pictures, he directly fired 70% of the old staff. As a result, they were blocked at the door. It was a big deal at that time. Others say that he is a cold-blooded capitalist. But to be fair, if he didn't clean up the mess, Jiang Pictures would still be finished. No matter how much money was invested, it would be useless. The headquarters of Jiang Pictures was not far from Luchin's studio. It was less than a 10-minute drive. However, the roads in Hong Kong were very congested, so it took them almost half an hour to get there. The office of Jiang Pictures was in an old office building. After Lu Chun and the others went up to the address, they soon met the general manager of Jiang Pictures, Zhang Yifan. Zhang Yifan was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was wearing a suit, his hair was neatly combed, and he was quite strong. He had the aura of someone who had retired from the world of martial arts. "Ha ha, Brother Wenxiang." Seeing Chen Wenxiang, the general manager of Jiang Pictures greeted him with a smile and took the initiative to extend his hand. "Long time no see. You're a rare guest." Chen Wenxiang was a little flattered. He knew Zhang Yifan, and it would be nonsense to say that they were friends. In the circle, there was still a big gap between the two of them. Others might not know, but judging from Zhang Yifan's attitude, they must have thought that they were old friends. But Chen Wenxiang was not an ordinary person after all. He did not get carried away by Zhang Yifan's enthusiasm. He also showed a happy smile and shook hands with Zhang Yifan. "Boss Zhang, you really think too highly of me." Wenxiang doesn't deserve it. He let go of his hand and first introduced Lu Chun to him. "This is Lu Chun, my current boss." Zhang Yifan's smile disappeared, and his expression became serious. He thoughtfully looked at Lu Chun, who was standing next to Chen Wenxiang. Lu Chun smiled and reached out to Zhang Yifan. "Hello, Boss Zhang. I've heard a lot about you." Zhang Yifan's expression changed again, and a smile appeared on his face again. He held Lu Chun's hand tightly and said, "I should say that I've heard a lot about you. Lu Chun, I know you. You're a big star in the mainland. You really bring light to my humble place by coming to Jiang Pictures." Lu Chun smiled and said, "Boss Zhang, you're too polite." After some polite greetings, Lu Chun introduced Wan Xiaoquan to Zhang Yifan. Lu Chun, Wan Xiaoquan, and Chen Wenxiang were the three horses of the newly established Xiangjiang Film and Television Studio. The three of them came to Jiang Pictures at the same time, which showed that they attached great importance to this cooperation. Zhang Yifan obviously understood that this was the sincerity of Lu Chun, and he also had the interest and sincerity of cooperation. So the two sides sat down smoothly and began to negotiate about the movie, A Chinese Ghost Story. Although Zhang Yifan's attitude was very good and sincere, when it came to specific cooperation matters, he showed the shrewdness of a film company's general manager, which was very difficult to deal with. Because of the disagreement on the most important proportion of shares, they quickly fell into a deadlock. So in the end, the two sides did not reach an agreement on the spot. Chapter 448. Dragging heavy steps, Ma Rongjin slowly walked out of the main gate of Lion Rock Film and Television City, ready to take a minibus back to his home in Tianshui. Lion Rock Film and Television City was the film and television shooting base of Xiangjiang, covering an area of more than 5,000 mu. Although the scale was not comparable to the three major domestic film and television bases, it was already a large project and a large site in Xiangjiang. This film and television shooting base was built during the boom period of Xiangjiang's film and television industry. After several expansions, it formed the current pattern, with a number of large-scale ancient and modern scenic spots. In addition to receiving film and television crews, it was also open to tourists. Many of Xiangjiang's films and television works were shot in this film and television city at the foot of Lion Rock Mountain, and the scenery catered to the characteristics of Xiangjiang's film industry. So far, it has an important position in the local film and television industry. Ma Rongjin could not remember how many times he had been in and out of Lion Rock Film and Television City. He was a student of the 7th Artist Training Class of ATV in the late 1980s. After graduation, he signed with ATV and began to play the old-fashioned career. After the end of the period, he entered the film industry. At that time, ghost films were popular in Xiangjiang. Ma Rongjin's image was good, and he was chosen by the director to play the role of a Mao Mountain Taoist priest in a zombie film. As a result, he became popular and was very popular for a few years. However, ghost films declined and were basically abandoned by the audience at the beginning of the new century. As a special actor, Ma Rongjin had to face the embarrassment of transformation, and his career plummeted. The business he invested in failed, and his wife and children left him. Ma Rongjin originally lived in Jiulong, but he had to sell his house to pay off his debts and moved to Tianshui for 10 years. The rich areas of Xiangjiang were mainly concentrated in Repulse Bay, Saikeng District, Shek-O, Banshan, and so on. Jiulong was regarded as a gathering place for the middle class. As for the poor areas, they were Tianshui and Wudun. The huge gap in life and the heavy pressure of reality bent Ma Rongjin's back, making him look at least 60 years old, with gray hair and a face full of vicissitudes. The famous Brother Ma and Uncle Ma were now just Old Ma. There were many people from Tianshui who came to Lion Rock Film and Television City to be extras, so there was a minibus station nearby. Near evening, a minibus was already full of people. Seeing this, Ma Rongjin hurriedly rushed to get on the bus. If he missed this bus, the next one would be very late. There were no empty seats in the car, and the aisle was full of people. No one gave up their seats to Ma Rongjin, the sweating old man. Everyone was playing with their phones indifferently or simply closing their eyes to rest. Ma Rongjin was used to this. He was no longer the glorious priest Ma of the past. Not many people here really thought highly of him. In Hong Kong, there were actually many old actors like Ma Rongjin. Uncle Ma, just as Ma Rongjin was about to stand all the way home, a young man in the front row stood up and said, "My seat is for you. Come and sit." Everyone looked at him as if he was an idiot. Ma Rongjin also looked at him and recognized him as one of the extras she knew. She immediately smiled and said, "Lil Wu, what a coincidence. Why don't you sit by yourself? Your Uncle Ma isn't that old. It's more comfortable to stand." You got to know Lil Wu half a year ago. Lil Wu claimed to have watched many of his movies and was a fan of his. Lil Wu was a young man from the countryside. He had the enthusiasm and simplicity of a young people in the countryside. Others called Ma Rongjin Old Ma, but he always called him Uncle Ma, and he had helped Ma Rongjin a lot. Seeing him, Ma Rongjin felt a surge of warmth in his heart. Ring. At this time, the phone in Ma Rongjin's pocket suddenly rang. He waved at Lil Wu and quickly took out the phone. "Is it my ex-wife asking for living expenses again?" Ma Rongjin thought to himself. He put the old phone to his ear and asked in a low voice, "Hello, is this Ma Rongjin, Brother Ma?" The voice coming from the phone was very strange. Just now, Lil Wu called him Uncle Ma, and now someone called him Brother Ma. Ma Rongjin couldn't describe his feelings. He quickly replied, "Yes, and you are?" The other party said with a smile, "I'm Chen Wenxiang. You may not remember me, but we had dinner together in Kowloon Tang 3 years ago. Brother Biao and Huzi were also there." Oh, hello. Ma Rongjin remembered the dinner, but he really couldn't remember who the other party was. It just sounded a little familiar. Fortunately, the other party didn't have any intention of reminiscing. He asked directly, "Brother Ma, are you free these days?" "Am I free? Of course I'm free." Recently, Ma Rongjin was not only free, but he was extremely free. He was now mingling in the Lion Rock Film Studio, and he was not much different from an ordinary extra. He was just playing a small role. He had a day's work to do and earn a day's salary to fill his stomach. I'm free. What's the matter? Here's the thing, Chun Wen-xiang said. We're preparing to shoot a new movie here, and there's an important role in it that suits you very well, so I recommended you to the boss. Can you come for an audition? New movie? New movie. An important role. Ma Rongjin suddenly shivered and said eagerly, Audition? No problem. I'll come right now. While he was talking to Chun Wen-xiang, many people sitting in the minibus pricked up their ears to listen. When they heard Ma Rongjin say the word audition, everyone felt incredulous. Someone was looking for Ma Rongjin for an audition. Auditions were not just for show, and not every Tom, Dick, or Harry was qualified to audition. At least, actors had to audition for roles in movies or TV series that had some weight. Ma Rongjin, this old salted fish, was going to make a comeback. Most of the people in the minibus knew Ma Rongjin and knew his past, so they were surprised. Which film company would ask this old guy for an audition nowadays? Chun Wen-xiang didn't expect it either. He didn't expect Ma Rongjin to be so impatient. He turned around and asked Lu Chun a few words, then said to Ma Rongjin, How about this? Come to Shunji Restaurant in Kowloon Tong. We'll wait for you there. Call me when you arrive. Okay. Ma Rongjin straightened his back and became energetic, as if he had become 10 years younger in an instant. His voice became a lot louder. I'll be right there. After ending the call, Ma Rongjin looked around and saw that the people in the minibus were looking at him with complicated expressions. Disdain, bewilderment, curiosity, and envy. He suddenly had the urge to laugh out loud. Then Ma Rongjin saw Lil Wu, who had given up his seat to him just now. Lil Wu was smiling, obviously happy for him. Ma Rongjin felt a surge of hot blood. He reached out to grab Lil Wu's arm and said, Come with me. I'll take you to meet the boss of the movie. Maybe you can get a role. Lil Wu was pulled out of the minibus by him with a dumbfounded look on his face. Low curses came from the minibus. Bah, we don't even know if we can get it. What are you so proud of? Ma Rongjin didn't hear them at all. At this moment, his mind was filled with only one thought. I'm going to make a movie. Chapter 449. Uncle Ma, where are we going? Uncle Ma, which film company is looking for you? Uncle Ma, Xiao Wu, who had been pulled out of the minibus by Ma Rongjin, finally came to his senses. Suddenly, he could not help but blurt out countless questions. He was full of uncertainty, as if he had suddenly been hit by a pie in the sky. Can I really get a role? Xiao Wu had just turned 20 this year. After graduating from high school, he had come out to make a living. He had grown up in a remote village in Yuanlong and was still ignorant of everything in the bustling big city of Hong Kong. But Xiao Wu was very clear that this was likely to be a chance for him to change his life. He instinctively grabbed Ma Rongjin tightly. Ma Rongjin flagged down a taxi on the side of the road. After getting into the car and sitting down, he said to Lil Wu earnestly, Lil Wu, I don't know which company hired me to act in a movie, but no matter what, as long as I can successfully audition for the role, how about you be Uncle Ma's assistant for now? Ma Rongjin had been famous in the past. At his peak, he had 4 or 5 assistants and bodyguards with him. Although he was now down and out, he could not be looked down upon. Therefore, he pulled Xiao Wu over on the one hand to take care of him, on the other hand to support himself. Xiao Wu nodded blankly. Assistant? What a high-class word. He had worked as an extras in the Lion Rock Film and Television City and had seen many stars' assistants. Some of them were even more arrogant than the stars themselves. They were definitely existences that a nobody like him envied. Even if he was Uncle Ma's assistant, it was better than getting a small role with only a few lines, right? Thank you, Uncle Ma. Ma Rongjin patted Xiao Wu with relief and said, When you see the big boss later, talk less and look more. You must be polite and don't screw me up. By the way, he said to the taxi driver, Brother, please take us to the nearest clothing store. The taxi drivers in Hong Kong were generally older because young people did not like to do this hard, tiring, and low-paying job. The taxi driver looked even older than Ma Rongjin. Ma Rongjin suddenly thought of a problem. Both of them were wearing the costumes of extras and smelled of sweat. It would be too embarrassing to meet the boss of the movie like this, so they had to change into clean clothes. He was a little regretful that he had agreed too hastily just now. Fortunately, there were a lot of ready-made clothing stores in Xiangjiang that provided clothing rental services, so what he needed the most right now was to borrow a set of clothes that were at least passable to wear. Of course, Lil would be there too. For this opportunity, Ma Rongjin intended to go all out. While Ma Rongjin and Xiao Wu were changing their clothes, Chen Wenxiang accompanied Lu Chun and Wan Xiaoquan to Shunji Restaurant, which was located in the bustling area of Kowloon. Chen Wenxiang had already booked a private room. Today, the director of the studio took Lu Chun and the others to visit more than half of Xiangjiang. In the morning, they went to Jiang Pictures to discuss cooperation, and in the afternoon, they went to several places, mainly to let Lu Chun familiarize himself with the basic facilities of film and television production in Xiangjiang. In fact, when Ma Rongjin was in extras in Lion Rock, Lu Chun and the others were also visiting the studio. According to the plan, most of the scenes of the new movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, will be shot here. Lu Chun was quite satisfied with the hardware facilities of Lion Rock Studio, especially the abandoned ancient temple landscape at the foot of Lion Rock, which was very suitable to be decorated as the main scene of the movie, Lanrua Temple. After seeing the shooting site, they inevitably discussed the roles and actors. In the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, Lu Chun planned to play the role of the male lead, Ning Kai-chen. Originally, he had thought of letting Chan Fei-er play the role of Nie Xiaoqian, but the latter had no free time at the moment, so he had to find another suitable actor. In addition to Nie Xiaoqian, there was also a very important and eye-catching role in the movie, and that was Yan Qixia. In A Chinese Ghost Story, Yan Qixia was set to hate evil, be skilled in magic, have a wild and unrestrained personality, and still have a bit of a child's heart. To play this role, they had to find a real veteran actor. When Lu Chun and Wan Xiaoquan talked, Chen Wenxiang recommended Ma Rongjin to Lu Chun, the famous veteran actor who played the roles of Mao Mountain Taoist priest and Zhong Kuei. Lu Chun was unfamiliar with Ma Rongjin's name, but he did have some impression of the Mao Mountain Taoist priest played by the latter. He remembered watching a certain Xiangjiang zombie movie when he was a child. Therefore, he agreed to let Ma Rongjin give it a try. He did not expect that as soon as Chen Wenxiang called, the other party could not wait to come over, even though it was already evening. Ma Rongjin is also unlucky. Sitting in the private room, Chen Wenxiang personally picked up the teapot and poured a cup of hot tea for Lu Chun. He said with great emotion, Ma Rongjin married a wife who was 10 years younger than him. She was the flower of the TVB's artist class at that time, so he was very doted on and even gave birth to a son for him. Everyone was really envious of him. In the end, who would have thought that Ma Rongjin's wife would have an affair with his agent? Ma Rongjin caught them in the act, and it caused a huge uproar. In the end, they divorced. Ma Rongjin really lost both his money and his life. The money he worked so hard to earn and invested in his business were all taken away by this adulterous couple. When they divorced, his assets were divided, and he even lost his son. Wan Xiaoquan asked curiously why. Chen Wenxiang chuckled. His son is not his biological son. Lu Chun and Wan Xiaoquan were speechless. Chen Wenxiang continued. After this blow, Ma Rongjin's career has been ruined. Of course, it is also because of the market, so he has basically disappeared. I had a meal with him a few years ago, and he is very down and out. Ma Rongjin is a very good person. Unfortunately, he met the wrong person. Wan Xiaoquan sighed and said, in today's society, good people may not necessarily be rewarded. Chen Wenxiang grabbed a handful of melon seeds and scattered them on the table. He said, bad people will also get their retribution. His agent, whose surname is Song, fooled around with his ex-wife for a few years and squandered all the money he got from swindling. Then, he courted death by seducing the concubine of a leader of the Hongqing gang. In the end, he was hit by a big truck and died on the street. It is said that his skin was crushed. Lu Chun and Wan Xiaoquan looked at each other. Ma Rongjin's story could be made into a movie. Ring, ring, ring. While they were talking, Chen Wenxiang's cell phone rang. He immediately picked it up and smiled. Brother Ma, you're here? I will come down to pick you up. After hanging up, Chen Wenxiang said to Lu Chun, Ma Rongjin is here. I will go down first. Lu Chun nodded. Okay, no matter what, Ma Rongjin was a senior in the industry. Even if he was down and out, he should still be respected. It was most appropriate for Chen Wenxiang to step up. Chapter 450. Stepping into the box, Ma Rongjin immediately saw Lu Chun sitting in a main seat. Compared with Wan Xiaoquan and Zhang Xiaofeng, who were sitting next to him, Lu Chun was like a star in the night. He could be distinguished from the crowd at a glance and leave a deep impression. First of all, he was handsome. Lu Chun's handsomeness was different from the popular handsome men in the entertainment circle. Although he was not extremely handsome, his face was well-defined, his eyebrows were straight, and his nose bridge was straight. He had the firmness and calmness of a young man, which made people instinctively feel that he was a trustworthy person. This is the boss of the film company? Ma Rongjin couldn't believe it and couldn't help but be stunned. To be honest, Wan Xiaoquan was more like a boss, and Lu Chun was a star artist under his company. It was more normal for him to be the male lead of the new film. While he was stunned, Lu Chun had already stood up with a smile and took the initiative to step forward and extend his hand. Uncle Ma, I've heard a lot about you. After all, Ma Rongjin was an old man who had been in the entertainment circle for decades. He immediately reacted and shook Lu Chun's hand. Hello. Chen Wenxiang seized the opportunity to introduce, Brother Ma, this is my current boss, Lu Chun. He is from the mainland and has just opened a film studio in Hong Kong. The office is in Rongjin Building, which has an area of more than 2,000 square feet. Ma Rongjin was a native of Hong Kong, so he understood the meaning of Chen Wenxiang's words as soon as he heard it. Rongjin Building was located in the Xingpan business district of West Harbor. Although the rent of West Harbor office buildings was not as high as that of Central and Admiralty, there were a large number of TV stations, newspapers and magazines, and film and television entertainment companies around it. The rent was never cheap, not to mention the area of 2,000 square feet. Chen Wenxiang was hinting at Lu Chun's strength. Ma Rongjin was in awe. Boss Lu, you are really young and promising. Lu Chun smiled and said, Uncle Ma, you are my senior. Just call me Lu Chun. Boss Lu sounds awkward. Having experienced the ups and downs of life, she was used to the fickleness of human nature. Ma Rongjin was very touched by Lu Chun's respect and politeness. She didn't expect that someone would still respectfully call him senior. The entertainment circle in Hong Kong was a circle where the popular ones were the white ones. Everyone supported the popular stars and trampled on the outdated ones. The younger generation didn't care whether you were senior or not. They only cared about how popular and how much background you had. Ma Rongjin was now working in the Lion Rock Film City, and many people knew him. Even an ordinary handyman dared to order him around. Although Lu Chun is from the mainland, with Chen Wenxiang around, it is impossible for him to know nothing about his situation. It was precisely because of this that Lu Chun's attitude was so precious. Chen Wenxiang added, Mr. Lu Chun is a popular star in the mainland. He has released 2 solo albums and acted in 2 phenomenal TV series since his debut more than a year ago. This time, he came to Xiangjiang to make a movie. When Ma Rongjin heard that, he couldn't describe the feeling in his heart with words. He didn't doubt that Chen Wenxiang was bragging for Lu Chun, because there was no need to do so. No matter what Lu Chun's identity was, as long as he could come up with the money to hire him to shoot a movie, it was enough. Lu Chun smiled and said, Let's sit down and talk. Everyone sat down again, and Chen Wenxiang introduced Wan Xiaoquan and Zhang Xiaofeng to Ma Rongjin. Ma Rongjin also introduced his assistant, Lil Wu, to Lu Chun and the others. Lil Wu sat on the side, trembling with fear. He didn't even dare to breathe heavily. He had only seen such a scene in movies and TV series before. It felt a little like a dream. Chen Wenxiang called the waiter to order. The menu was given to Lu Chun first. Lu Chun randomly ordered a few dishes and handed them to Ma Rongjin. Uncle Ma, order whatever you like. Ma Rongjin hurriedly refused. No, I'm fine with anything. You can order. After a pause, he asked tentatively, Mr. Liu, have you finished writing the script for the movie? Lu Chun handed the menu to Chun Wenxiang and said with a smile, I've already written the script. If Uncle Ma wants to read it, you can do it now. He nodded at Zhang Xiaofeng, who took out a thick draft paper from his briefcase and handed it to Ma Rongjin. Thank you. Ma Rongjin almost couldn't wait to take it and read it. He was so serious and engrossed that he even forgot the existence of Lu Chun and the others. It wasn't until the waiter served the first hot dish that he snapped out of his daze. Although he was already hungry and the aroma of the food was extremely tempting, Ma Rongjin's mind was not on eating or drinking. He held the script and looked straight at Lu Chun. Mr. Liu, which screenwriter wrote this script? It was so well written. Although the story was adapted from strange tales from a Chinese studio, there were many wonderful elements added in it. The personalities of the protagonists were distinct, the characters were lifelike, and the story plot was full of ups and downs. Now, there was a strange phenomenon in the Xinjiang film and television industry. That was, the script was made up and relied on the celebrities to act cute. The screenwriters were eager for quick success and wanted to cater to the audience's taste, but the result was often the opposite of what they wanted. The decline of the Xinjiang film industry was also closely related to the absence of a god-level screenwriter. Most of the outstanding screenwriters of the older generation had already withered. Ma Rongjin had been in the industry for decades. He had filmed many movies and read countless scripts. The script of a Chinese ghost story in his hand evoked an impulse that Ma Rongjin hadn't felt for a long time. It was the impulse of an actor who was eager to try out a good script. The yin qi xia in the script was simply tailor-made for him. Ma Rongjin had a strong feeling that if he missed this movie, he would regret it for the rest of his life. At this moment, he really wanted to say loudly to Lu Chun, I'll take this movie, even if it's free. However, Ma Rongjin's remaining rationality made him forcibly suppress his impulse. That was because he had already lost a lot of points for his performance today. If he met a shrewd boss, it would be enough for him to play with him in the palm of his hand. It was impossible for Ma Rongjin to really not want money. He still had to support his family. Chun Wenxiang smiled and said, The script was written by our boss himself. He is also the male lead. When he answered, Chun Wenxiang glanced at Lu Chun and used his eyes to ask Lu Chun for instructions. Lu Chun understood what he meant and nodded slightly. Chun Wenxiang had good taste. When he first saw Ma Rongjin, Lu Chun felt that he was very suitable for the role of Yin Qi Xia, be it in terms of appearance or temperament. Of course, his temperament was still lacking a lot, but he believed that it would not be a problem for an experienced actor. After getting Lu Chun's approval, Chun Wenxiang's smile became even brighter. He continued, I recommended you to him to play Yin Qi Xia. I wonder if you're interested? Are you interested? Are you interested? Ma Rongjin squeezed the script in his hand tightly. There was a loud roar in his heart. Even his divine soul was trembling. Chapter 451. Using all his strength, Ma Rongjin didn't let himself lose his composure on the spot. He swallowed his saliva dryly and said in a deep voice, If Child Lu can give me this opportunity, I will definitely play Yin Qi Xia well. Ma Rongjin didn't beat his chest to swear, nor did he look happy and proud. These simple words showed his confidence and determination to win, which was more sincere than any honeyed words. Lu Chun felt his confidence, which was the pride of an old actor. At this moment, this old actor in Hong Kong who had been down for a long time finally showed a trace of his sharpness. The sharpness that hadn't been worn down by hardship and hardship. This was the Yin Qi Xia that Lu Chun wanted. Lu Chun nodded and said with a smile, Let's eat first, the dishes are getting cold. This big was beyond Ma Rongjin's expectation. He was like a defendant waiting for the final decision of the judge, but the latter announced a temporary adjournment. It was really tantalizing. To be honest, Ma Rongjin had taken out all his courage and confidence just now. If he had to do it again, he might not be able to perform better. However, the delicious food in Shunji restaurant soothed Ma Rongjin's depression. This old restaurant was famous for its seafood cooking, which was loved by all the foodies in Hong Kong. In the past, Ma Rongjin often came to Shunji restaurant, but that was at least 10 years ago. 10 years. Tasting the familiar taste again, the old actor had the impulse to burst into tears. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, everyone was full and asked the waiter to take away the leftovers and replace them with tea. It was time to talk about the real issue. Chen Wenxiang asked directly, "Brother Ma, what are your conditions in terms of pay? Now that Child Lu is here, we can talk face to face. If there are no differences, this role is yours." Now the role played by Chen Wenxiang was equivalent to Lu Chen's spokesperson. As the boss, of course, Lu Chen couldn't directly bargain with Ma Rongjin about pay, so naturally he would come forward. Lu Chen was satisfied with Ma Rongjin, but Chen Wenxiang was easy to negotiate. Ma Rongjin hesitated. When he came to Shunji restaurant, he had considered this problem, and it was also the problem that made him scratch his head the most. When Ma Rongjin's career was at its peak, the highest salary for a movie was as high as 2 to 3 million yuan. If compared with the housing price in Xiangjiang at that time, it was equivalent to 10 to 20 million yuan now. But the past was the past, and the present was the present. A hero did not mention his past achievements. Now, he had fallen to the point of mixing in extras and small supporting roles. The little money he earned was barely enough to support his family. Although Ma Rongjin was divorced a long time ago, he still had a frail and sickly mother at home. He was a filial son, and most of the money that he worked hard to earn was used to take care of his mother. To him, the role of Yin Qixia was an opportunity to change his fate. Therefore, when it came to the issue of remuneration, he was very conflicted. He did not know how to quote a price. Back then, he could have asked his agent to negotiate with Chen Wenxiang for as much as he wanted. All right, let's not talk about that agent who had been crushed into a pulp. Chen Wenxiang was an experienced man, and of course, he understood Ma Rongjin's dilemma. He smiled and said, "Brother Ma, just give me a number. Of course, we can also wait for you to hire an agent first." No need. Ma Rongjin instinctively jumped up. Not to mention whether he could afford an agent now. Hadn't he been cheated enough by his agent in the past? Gritting his teeth, Ma Rongjin stretched out his palm and said 50,000. When he offered this price, he was very nervous. He was afraid that he would miss the opportunity if he offered a high price, but if he offered a low price, people would look down on him. In fact, for a very important role, a salary of 50,000 yuan was already very low. However, there are many low-budget productions in Xiangjiang, and it was normal for the main actors to receive a salary of 30 to 50,000 yuan. Ma Rongjin referred to this standard. He was now working in the Lion Rock Film and Television City. His daily salary for extras was about 2 to 300 yuan, but he did not have a show every day. He only earned 50 to 60,000 yuan a year. Ma Rongjin did not know that the investment budget for a Chinese ghost story was 30 million yuan. 50,000 yuan. Lu Chen and Chen Wenxiang looked at each other. Wan Xiaoquan, who was sitting on the side, felt sad. It was only 50,000 yuan. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, "Okay, if the movie makes money in the future, I will give Uncle Ma a big red packet." Since Ma Rongjin offered 50,000 yuan, although the salary was a little low, he could not take the initiative to increase the price. As long as he gave a red packet to make up for it in the future, it would be in line with the rules of the circle and would not be a laughingstock. Thank you, young Master Lu." Ma Rongjin felt as if a big stone had been lifted from his heart, and his old face beamed like a flower. Lu Chen said again, "Uncle Ma, I will ask Uncle Chang to give you 20,000 yuan in advance and 30,000 yuan after the shooting. What do you think?" This was Lu Chen's consideration. Ma Rongjin's situation was so bad, and making a movie was not something that could be done in a day or two. He couldn't let him starve during this period, could he? Instead of letting Ma Rongjin take the initiative to propose it, it was better to help him in a big way. Ma Rongjin was speechless. Thank you, young Master Lu, Chun Wenxiang watched from the side. He was also very impressed. Lu Chen's behavior was not like that of a newcomer at all. He was very sophisticated and thoughtful. If he followed him, he would definitely have a bright future. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Then let's have tea instead of wine. First, let's wish a successful cooperation. Cheers." While Lu Chen was talking and laughing in the Shunji restaurant in Kowloon Tong, the news about him was spreading in the Hong Kong forum, becoming the focus of countless netizens in Hong Kong. Has anyone heard this song? The post was uploaded to the pop music section last night. In less than 24 hours, it had already received over 500,000 views and 70,000 comments. It was the hottest topic on the homepage of the Hong Kong forum. In the afternoon, someone uploaded a scanned picture to the pop music section. The content of the picture was the report on the second page of the Polo Daily. The poster linked this picture with the "Has anyone heard this song?" video in the hot post, and it immediately attracted a large number of views and comments. The face and the clothes are exactly the same. It must be the same person. Huh? Didn't they say that Lu Chun is Chun Fei, or his boyfriend? Why is he together with Xu Jing? Who can tell me what's going on? Onlookers, however, soon, someone posted a statement on Xu Jing's blog, dispelling the rumor. However, the post that was originally very popular in the pop music section was reposted to the Hong Kong blogs and tagged Xu Jing. As a result, the influence of the post continued to grow. Even Lu Chen himself did not expect that inadvertently, he began to become popular on the internet in Hong Kong. More and more netizens in Hong Kong knew his name, as well as his achievements. But what really attracted the attention of the Hong Kong blogs was a blog post that appeared at 9 p.m. Chapter 452. In front of this young man, Hong Kong's pop music creators should be ashamed. The long title had a strong sense of criticism. When this long blog post appeared on Hong Kong blogs, it immediately attracted the attention of many people inside and outside the circle, who forwarded and commented on it. Because the blogger who posted the blog post was a very famous music critic on Hong Kong blogs, Madman Nanhai. No one knew the true identity of Madman Nanhai. He was quite mysterious, but it was certain that he must be an insider of Hong Kong's pop music industry. He was familiar with the inside stories and rules of the industry, and his comments on local singers were very sharp. What made him famous was his venomous tongue. His attacks on the pop music world and pop singers in Hong Kong were merciless and blunt. Some singers even almost committed suicide because of his scolding. Such a person must have made countless enemies. So in the special social environment of Hong Kong, it was natural and necessary to keep his identity mysterious. However, South Sea Madman's venomous tongue was not the kind of insulting personal attacks. He was targeting problems in the music industry, criticizing the unhealthy phenomena in the music industry, as well as the singer's professionalism. It could be said that he had a target in mind. It was precisely because of this that Madman Nanhai had more than 500,000 fans on Hong Kong blogs. Many fans often read his comments before buying a singer's album. If the comments were too bad, they would definitely not buy it. However, if the new album could get a thumbs up from Madman Nanhai's blog, it would often drive a lot of sales and attract those fans who trusted Madman Nanhai. Madman Nanhai's evaluation criteria were different. A thumbs up meant recognition and praise. 2 thumbs up meant full recommendation and not to be missed, and the worship star represented the highest honor. In the more than 10 years since he opened his blog, no more than 10 albums have been given 2 thumbs up, and the worship star had only appeared twice. The corresponding 2 albums had sold more than 1 million copies and were very popular in Hong Kong. Therefore, many singers and stars in Hong Kong loved, hated, and feared this madman. Everyone wanted to see Madman Nanhai give a thumbs up to their works, but they were afraid that the thumbs up would be upside down, which represented ruthless contempt and ridicule. In this blog post, Madman Nanhai gave a 3rd worship star to a person and a song for the first time, and used this as a topic to severely criticize the creators of Hong Kong's pop music. This person and this song were none other than Lu Chun, who sang The Love of a Lifetime at La Dolce Vita 97. The blog post reposted the most popular video from the pop music section of the Hong Kong forum. Nanhai Madman analyzed the brilliance of The Love of My Life in detail and thought that it was one of the best Cantonese songs in the past decade. It was a masterpiece that could become a classic. What made him feel distressed was that this Cantonese masterpiece was actually written by a mainland musician who had just arrived in Xinjiang. Furthermore, it was a young man who had only debuted for more than a year and did not have a music professional background. In front of this talented young man, the pop music creators of Hong Kong should feel ashamed, because when the older generation of songwriters retired or passed away, they could not inherit the essence of the skills and character style of their predecessors. They were vain and impetuous in their eagerness for quick success and instant benefits. Without a true love for music, it was impossible to create good works. Many music creators in Xinjiang were used to bringing things with them. The phenomenon of plagiarizing, imitating, and following the trend of Europe, America, Japan, and South Korea was serious. Some even directly rewrote the lyrics of foreign pop songs, seriously killing the efforts and dreams of those serious original creators. The funny thing was that many people in the industry realized that if this went on, Hong Kong's pop music would be finished sooner or later, or would become a place where copycat music prevailed. However, no one tried to change all this. They muddled along, making the status of songwriters increasingly lower in the pop music world, creating a vicious circle. Many new so-called idol singers could not sing well after leaving the recording studio. They even had to lip sync at concerts. All kinds of so-called new music styles were popular, causing the current Hong Kong pop music world to be in chaos. However, in such a bad situation, many people in the industry were still immersed in the glory of the past, indulging in the golden age of the 1980s and 1990s, completely forgetting that more than a decade had passed in the new century. If they did not keep up with the pace of the times, they would inevitably be abandoned by the times. And Lu Chun used this original Cantonese masterpiece, The Love of Life, to tell everyone the talent and strength of the new generation of mainland musicians, as well as their attitude towards pop music. This song was like a slap in the face of those who laughed at and despised mainland pop music, letting them know that there was nothing to be proud of in the current Hong Kong pop music world. They should be ashamed and wake up. This blog post of Nanhai Madman was very long, with thousands of words. In addition to praising the love of life, he severely criticized the chaos in the Hong Kong music world and pointed the finger at the creators. Hong Kong's entertainment industry was very developed. Decades of prosperity had created a large number of professionals. Although it had declined now, there was still a large number of pop music creators and singers. Hong Kong's blogs were undoubtedly the most important public opinion position of Hong Kong's new media. Most people in the entertainment industry had their own blogs and fans. Updating and browsing blogs had also become one of their daily activities. Nanhai Madman directly slapped them in the face. Few people who were poked in their sore spot were willing to swallow it. Naturally, they launched a tit-for-tat counterattack on the blog, refuting the former's remarks. Nanhai Madman's identity was mysterious, but he was not alone on Hong Kong's blogs. He had a large number of fans who supported him. In the face of the fierce counterattack, he did not show weakness and fought back. Blog posts and comments on both sides kept appearing, and the firepower of the attacks became more and more fierce. Lu Chun, who was used as a powerful weapon by Nanhai Madman, along with The Love of Life, was undoubtedly targeted by a large number of people. All kinds of doubts, belittling, and ridiculing continued. Many people still had prejudice against the mainland, thinking that The Love of Life could not be Lu Chen's original work, and that he must have plagiarized or copied it from somewhere. It was just that no evidence had been found for the time being. This war quickly spread from the blogs to the forums, and a large number of ordinary netizens joined the debate. Therefore, without Lu Chun even knowing it, he suddenly became popular on the internet in Hong Kong. At the same time, he was dragged into a lot of hatred by Nanhai Madman. Even if he was lying down, he would still be attacked. Chapter 453. Back at home in Repulse Bay, Lu Chen had just taken a shower when he received a call from his assistant, Li Jun. Only then did he know that he had become the focus of the controversy in Hong Kong's blog. In just a few hours, the number of his Hong Kong blog followers had skyrocketed from dozens to more than 100,000. Lu Chen had more than 20 million followers in the domestic wave blog, but he was not famous in Hong Kong. In addition, he had no foundation in Hong Kong and was still trying to adapt to the environment here, so he had no intention of creating hype for the time being. As Lu Chen's assistant, Li Jun had already applied for a real name verification for his Hong Kong blog. His identity was that of a famous mainland singer and actor, and he had already been verified. However, as of yesterday, Lu Chen only had 57 followers in Hong Kong, and there was only one blog post published by his studio. The number of clicks and comments were pitifully low. The content of the blog post was nothing more than, "I have just registered as a Hong Kong blog member. Please advise me." Because Lu Chen had been very low-key when he went to Hong Kong, the domestic media and fans did not know his whereabouts. It was normal for such a situation to occur. Otherwise, his fan support group could easily help him increase the number of Hong Kong blog followers by tens or even millions. In the end, it was all because of a blog post by a well-known Hong Kong blogger and music critic, Nanhai Quangren, that he was instantly pushed to the forefront of the discussion. The number of comments on that official blog post had reached tens of thousands, and it had also been forwarded a lot. When Lu Chen turned on the computer and logged into his Hong Kong blog account, he was shocked by thousands of system messages and blog private message prompts. It took a lot of effort for Lu Chen to completely figure out the ins and outs of this matter. Last night, his performance of The Love of My Life at La Dolce Vita 97 was taken by a customer and posted on the forum. Then, it was used by the Nanhai madman as a weapon to attack the pop music industry and composers in Hong Kong. As a result, it caused a blog war. And as a key figure, he was quickly found by the Xiangjiang online blog name. Because of this, he actually made it to the hot search list, causing the number of followers to increase sharply. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his innocent accusation. These surging fans were not just regular fans. Most of them were passers-by who came to watch the show. There were also some anti-fans who scolded and ridiculed him in various comments and private messages. Go back to the mainland. Xiangjiang does not welcome you. Isn't it just a song? What's so great about it? You really know how to create hype. Tell me the truth. How much did you pay Madman Nanhai for him to boast about you like this? Where did you copy this song from? You look down on our Hong Kong music creators. Do you think you're very powerful? Eat shit. There were even more unpleasant obscenities which were directly blocked by the smart identification system of the blog, but it was enough for Lu Chen to see the other side of some Xiangjiang people on the internet. However, there were also many people who liked The Love of My Life. They expressed their support for Lu Chen. They felt that this song was just as Nanhai Madman had said. It was one of the best Cantonese pop songs in the past decade. These newly increased fans were eager for Lu Chen to release a single and create more and better works. Welcome to Xiangjiang, Mr. Lu Chen. Although I didn't know you before today, I'm already a fan of yours. The Love of My Life is so good. You sang it so well. I watched that video 10 times on loop. Is this song written for your girlfriend? Thank you for letting me hear a good song. After spending more than half an hour, Lu Chen finally browsed through some of the comments and messages. He ignored the cursing and ridiculing anti-fans and felt that he needed to say something. After serious consideration, Lu Chen posted a new blog post on Hong Kong's blog for the first time. The title of the blog post was, "Thank You, Friends of Xiangjiang." In this blog post, Lu Chen expressed his gratitude to the Xiangjiang fans who supported him and liked his works. He specifically explained that he had come to Xiangjiang to set up a film studio and was preparing to shoot a movie. Therefore, he had no intention of releasing a single or album for the time being. This song, The Love of a Lifetime, was Lu Chen's first Cantonese work. He sang it impromptu with his friends at La Dolce Vita 97 in Lan Kwai Fong last night, so it wasn't a deliberate hype. He didn't even know the madman from Nanhai. In the end, Lu Chun expressed in a blog post that he liked the prosperity and beauty of Xiangjiang very much. However, he was very disgusted with the comments and attacks of some people on the blog. It was contrary to the open and tolerant image of Xiangjiang. Lu Chen's blog post could be said to be polite and restrained. His words were gentle but firm. He was neither aggressive nor timid. What he wrote was extraordinary writing skills. After the blog post was posted, it quickly received a large number of reposts and comments. The most obvious change was that the number of people who maliciously attacked and insulted him had decreased a lot. To Lu Chen's surprise, half an hour after the blog post was published, Lu Gangsheng, the most popular blogger in Hong Kong and a big shot in the entertainment industry in Hong Kong, actually liked the new blog post, commented on it, and reposted it. Lu Tianwang first welcomed Lu Chen to come to Xiangjiang to develop. He had just finished watching the bar video of The Love of My Life and expressed that he also liked the song very much. He hoped that he could have the opportunity to cooperate with Lu Chen. In addition, he asked Lu Chen not to care about those malicious comments, because those people could not represent the people of Xiangjiang. Lu Gangsheng's blog post immediately suppressed the audience. This Xiangjiang superstar who was born in the 70s was also a household name in the mainland. He was born in poverty, but was extremely hardworking. His personal achievements were inseparable from the Xiangjiang entertainment industry in the 80s and 90s. He was one of the symbols of the latter's prosperity. He was a real big shot in film, television, and music. Although Lu Gangsheng, who was in his 40s, had passed his peak, his position in the hearts of the people of Xiangjiang was unique. He also had a great influence in Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. This Lu Tianwang's Hong Kong blog had more than 17 million fans, big enough to surpass the population of Xiangjiang. However, this was not because of his fame, but because the registered members of the Hong Kong blog included Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau, as well as the Chinese circles in some Southeast Asian countries. Lu Gangsheng's support for Lu Chen was undoubtedly a heavy slap in the face to those anti-fans. It was undoubtedly a great help to Lu Chen's foothold in Xiangjiang. Moreover, his hope to cooperate with Lu Chen was enough to let people's imagination run wild. After all these twists and turns, Lu Chen could be considered to be really famous in Xiangjiang. The number of people who knew him suddenly increased by tens of thousands. Chapter 454. Lu Gangsheng's story could be written into an inspirational novel. His legend belonged to Xiangjiang, and it had witnessed the glorious past of Xiangjiang's pop music and Xiangjiang's movies. Lu Chen really didn't expect that this superstar would actually follow his blog and give him support and praise in a very friendly manner. Lu Chen could also be considered one of Lu Gangsheng's fans. When he was a child, he had watched many movies and TV series starring Lu Gangsheng, such as Big Lawyer, Hong Kong Hero, Life and Death Rescue, Brave Detective, Sword of Wudong, and so on. They were all popular works at that time, and there were also Lu Gangsheng's records. Until now, in his hometown, Lu Chen still had more than a dozen CD albums of this king of Xiangjiang. Although the current Lu Chen had already stood at a considerable height in the industry, he still had great respect for this senior, who was truly virtuous and artistic. Therefore, Lu Chen immediately replied to Lu Gangsheng's comment and sincerely thanked this superstar. He expressed that he was his fan and was looking forward to working with his idol. Lu Gangsheng had a lot of fans on Hong Kong's blog. Lu Chen's respectful attitude had undoubtedly won their favor and caused the number of his fans to increase steadily. As a result, when Lu Chen had just arrived at the studio the next day, his assistant Li Zhen reported to him happily, "Young Master Lu, you're really amazing." Even Lu Tianwang liked it. Now your fans have increased to 300,000. In China, it was common for popular figures to gain tens or even millions of fans on Waves' blog overnight. However, in Hong Kong's blogs, such a rapid increase in fans was quite rare. Many celebrities were keen on running blogs because the more fans they had, the more benefits they would bring, including direct and indirect benefits. It was already common for celebrities to endorse advertising products on blogs. Hong Kong blogs were no exception. The new generation of artists in Xinjiang all liked to use blogs. Li Jun had seen a lot of them, so she was naturally happy for Lu Chun. This was because Lu Gangsheng, Lu Tianwang, had helped Lu Chun increase his fans. It was really a great honor. Lu Chun, on the other hand, only smiled faintly and quickly threw it to the back of his mind, because he did not need to rely on this to earn money and popularity. Yesterday was more like an accident, nothing more than an accident within a pleasant surprise. He would not get carried away. However, Lu Chun still underestimated Lu Gangsheng's influence in Hong Kong, as well as his influence on himself. He hadn't even warmed his seat in the office when a visitor came. There were 5 people, 3 of whom Lu Chun met a few days ago. Madame Jin's entertainment company's boss, Ji Mingxiu, and her 2 goddaughters, Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan. As for the other 2, they should be assistants. Lu Chun was a little surprised. He had promised Madame Jean at Xu Jing's charity dinner that he would compose a debut song for Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan's twins within 3 days. However, the time was not up yet. Why did they take the initiative to come here? Were they afraid that he would run away? Lu Chun was amused by his own thoughts. He received a few uninvited guests in the reception room. Madame Jean, what are you doing? After sitting down, Lu Chun asked curiously, "What's the matter?" Madame Jean said, "Actually, it's not a big deal. I just brought my 2 daughters here to get familiar with each other. In the future, I'll ask them to visit you often and learn more things." Lu Chun couldn't help laughing. "You're too polite. I'm afraid I can't teach them anything." Madame Jean said with a smile, "Young Master Lu is really polite. Even Heavenly King Lu praised you. It's more than enough for you to teach my 2 daughters." Lu Chun suddenly understood. It was because of last night's incident. Madame Jean obviously already knew about the news on the Hong Kong blog, so she specially brought the twins here to show off. His status and weight in the Xinjiang entertainment industry had changed because of Lu Gangsheng's praise. Madame Jean just wanted to get closer to him. Simply put, the song written by Lu Chun for the twins, who was originally unknown in Xinjiang, and the song written by Lu Chun, who is now famous, would have a completely different publicity effect. Although this approach was a bit snobbish, she had her reasons. The suggestion of Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan to form a group was made by Lu Chun. He was the one who came up with the name Twins, and he also took care of the 2 girls' debut songs. There was no problem at all with the title of teacher. In the Xinjiang entertainment industry, this relationship was actually very close. Madame Jean wanted to kiss him even more. After understanding Madame Jean's intentions, Lu Chun couldn't help but laugh. He thought for a moment and said, "That's great. I've already written this song for the twins. I'll give it to you now." "You've already written it?" Madame Jean was really shocked. Originally, Lu Chun promised her 3 days. She actually didn't care about 3 to 5 days. A good song needed time to polish, and it wouldn't be beautiful if she rushed it. Therefore, today, Madame Jean just brought the twins to familiarize herself with them. She didn't mean to rush the manuscript. She didn't expect Lu Chun to actually say that he had already written it. It had only been less than 2 days. It couldn't be that he bought a half-hearted work with 1 million yuan, right? Although Madame Jean didn't really care about 1 million yuan, if that was really the case, she wouldn't be happy either. Of course, as an experienced person, on the surface, Madame Jean still showed a surprised expression. So fast, Lu Chun could more or less guess her true thoughts, but he wouldn't deliberately expose her. He smiled and said, "I had the inspiration a long time ago. It's just that I wrote it." He asked Li Jun to print out the song score that was already saved in his computer. Madame Jean took the still hot printed paper, and her eyes couldn't help but fall on the title at the top. It was the name of the song, Next Stop, Heavenly Queen. Next Stop, Heavenly Queen? This song title is very interesting. Madame Jin's eyes couldn't help but light up. She felt that her previous guess was probably wrong. What Lu Chun took out was most likely not a half-hearted work, but a truly tailor-made work for the twins. If that was the case, Lu Chun's talent was really amazing. No wonder King Lu praised him so much. Thinking of the song, The Love of My Life, that was circulating on the internet, Madame Jin's confidence in Lu Chen's sword. Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan, who were sitting next to her, both looked at the song's score curiously. Young Master Lu. At this time, Li Jin appeared in the reception room again and said to Lu Chen, Boss Zhou from Jiayong Pictures is here. He wants to see you. Zhou Yi. Lu Chen thought of this name and wondered why Boss Zhou from Jiayong Pictures came here personally. He looked at Madame Jean, who was sitting in front of him, and his heart suddenly moved. Chapter 455. In the 1980s and 1990s, Hong Kong's film and television entertainment industry was at its peak, and there were countless film companies. An ambitious and capable person in the circle could easily form a team and buy a decent script to attract a large amount of investment. Then, with a cost of $1,000,000 at most, they could spend half a month or a month to make a movie and make a lot of money. However, the golden age of Hong Kong's entertainment industry had passed more than 10 years ago. Today's Hong Kong film and television companies were at most a quarter of their heyday, but the number was still considerable, and those who could survive usually had their own foundation and characteristics. Jiayong Film's status in Hong Kong's film and television industry couldn't be compared with the top moguls, but as an old film and television company, its strength and influence were not low, especially after it was acquired by Hong Kong businessman Zhou Yi. In the past 2 years, it had produced several movies with good box office. This was also the reason why Chan Wenxiang strongly advocated the cooperation between Lu Chen Studio and Jiayong Film. The team of Jiayong Film was ready-made and had rich experience. This film and television company had a good relationship with several major cinema chains, so they could quickly screen in Hong Kong and get good ratings. For Lu Chen Studio, which has just started, it will save a lot of trouble to have such a partner. However, the first contact and negotiation did not go well. Jiayong Film's offer was very high. It was not an exorbitant price, but it was far beyond Lu Chen's bottom line. Of course, a movie with an investment budget of as high as 30 million yuan could not be easily settled by sitting down for a meal and chatting. There were many rules and regulations involved in cooperation. The so-called negotiation was actually a process of bargaining and testing each other's bottom line. Often, a final agreement could only be reached after a round of gambling. Lu Chen had already expected this, so he began to prepare for the new movie and was also mentally prepared to continue the negotiation with Jiayong Film. If they really could not come to an agreement, they could either talk to another company or simply gather their people. Of course, that was the last choice, and it would cost a lot more time and money, which was contrary to the plan. To Lu Chen's surprise, he had just visited Jiayong Film with Chen Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan yesterday, and met their general manager, Zhang Yifan. Today, the big boss behind Jiayong Film, Zhou Yi, actually paid a return visit in person. Was this also the influence of Lu Gangsheng? If that was the case, Lu Chen had undoubtedly underestimated the influence of this superstar in Shanjiang. Lu Chen remained calm and collected as he said to Li Jun, Mr. Zhou, please come to my office and apologize for me. Madame Jean was still sitting here. If he abandoned this group of people in front of him to welcome Zhou Yi, then his EQ would be too low, even if the latter was definitely here to discuss the cooperation of the new film. Yes, young Master Lu. Li Jun nodded in agreement and left to receive Zhou Yi. Mrs. Jean smiled and said, Young Master Lu, Boss Zhou Yi is here in person. Is he here to discuss the cooperation of a new movie? Then you have to catch him and slaughter him. Young Master Lu was a very unique title in Shanjiang. Previously, Ma Rongjin mentioned it first, and then Chen Wenxiang also called him Young Master Lu. Now, even Li Jun and Madame Jean changed the way they addressed him. Originally, as a guest, it was impolite to ask about the purpose of another guest's visit. However, Madame Jean was a woman, and her smile was very amiable. Her words revealed her familiarity with Zhou Yi, so people did not feel it was abrupt. Lu Chen was curious. Madame Jean and Boss Zhou are friends? Madame Jean smiled and said, We've had dinner together a few times. Boss Zhou is a very trustworthy person. It's reassuring to cooperate with him. Several of my artists have filmed in Jiayang Film before. It's been a pleasure working with him. She looked around and took the opportunity to push her two goddaughters out. Young Master Liu, do you still need actors for your movie? Give Xiao Dai and Xinyan 2 roles. They can also play small roles. You don't need to pay them at all. Just treat it as letting them learn from you. How about it? Filming a movie. Both Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan were tempted. They blinked their eyes and stared at Lu Chun. Filming movies and TV shows were irresistible temptations for most girls in Xiangjiang. There would always be examples in the industry of meeting talent scouts on the street and then becoming famous and embarking on a brilliant career as a star. Although this was Lu Chen's first movie and no one knew how it would turn out, being able to play a role in it would undoubtedly increase one's qualifications. With Lu Chen's fame and reputation, it was impossible for him to shoot a quick movie with tens of millions of investments, right? They were all smart people. Lu Chun smiled and said, "To be honest, I still lack a few roles in this movie. I haven't decided on the female lead either, but there really aren't any suitable ones for Xiao Dai and Xinyan. If you don't mind, it's not a problem for you to play a small role." There were not many characters involved in the movie, a Chinese ghost story. Lu Chun played the male lead. Yin Qixia had already decided on Ma Rongzhen, and there was a female supporting role, Xiao Qing, reserved for Chun Wenxiang's daughter. The only thing that Madame Jean could get for her goddaughter was a cameo appearance out of friendship. Before Madame Jean could speak, Li Xinyan couldn't wait and said, "A small role is fine too." Ji Xiaodai also nodded in agreement. They didn't expect to get any important roles, so it was good to play a small role. Just treat it as a game. In fact, Madame Jin's intention of bringing them here today was very obvious. She wanted them to firmly grasp Lu Chen's potential. It was not to snatch a diamond bachelor, but to get Lu Chen's support in their career. People in Xiangjiang were very superstitious. There had always been a saying of benefactors in the circle. Madame Jean believed that Lu Chun was Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan's benefactor. Meeting him at Xu Jing's charity banquet was their fate and opportunity. She smiled and said, "Thank you so much, young Master Liu. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. It's on Xiaodai and Xinyan's tab." Lu Chen really admired this person. No wonder Xu Jing admired him so much when she mentioned him. It would be strange if such a person didn't mix well in the entertainment industry. Madame Jean was very observant. She had achieved her goal, so she didn't continue to pester him. After a while, she stood up and said, "Young Master Liu still has guests, so we won't bother you anymore. I'll inform Miss Li after booking a table. See you tonight." Ji Xiaodai and Li Xinyan also stood up, bowed and said, "Goodbye, Teacher Liu. I'll see you out." Lu Chun personally saw Madame Jean and the others out, and then returned to his office. Zhou Yi, the chairman of Jiayang Pictures, was already waiting there. Chapter 456. Zhou Yi was a very pure businessman. He was born in a middle-class family and received a good education from a young age. After graduating from a famous foreign university, he first engaged in foreign trade, and his business was doing very well. After earning the first pot of gold in his life, he quickly switched to the financial industry. After experiencing the 2002 stock crash in Xiangjiang and the rising tide of the housing market in 2005, his assets quickly accumulated more than 100 million, and he became a rather famous financial investor. 10 years later, Zhou Yi established his own investment fund, which had many investment projects in the real economy and the internet industry, and most of them were profitable. In Xiangjiang, Zhou Yi was definitely not one of the richest people, and he could not even be considered as one of the second richest. However, he was highly regarded in the industry and was known for his accurate judgment and brilliant methods. According to Chen Wenxiang, Zhou Yi was a trustworthy business partner, but definitely not suitable to be a friend. This was because he always put profits first, and if his own interests were harmed, even if it was an old friend, he would turn against him. Therefore, this director of Jiayang Pictures had a mixed reputation in the industry. Some people had a good impression of him, while others disliked him. When Lu Chan first saw Zhou Yi, his first impression was that he did not look like a businessman who only cared about profits. He was in his 40s, slender and refined, wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses and had a strong, scholarly air. His face was fair without any facial hair, and he looked slightly feminine. His slender eyes were reserved. Apart from Zhou Yi, there was a man and a woman sitting in Lu Chen's office. The man should be Zhou Yi's bodyguard. He was dressed very smartly, and his eyes were shining brightly. He stood silently in the corner. As for the woman, Lu Chen stared at her for 3 more seconds. It was not that Lu Chen was lecherous or impolite, but this beautiful woman in a long dress with picturesque features had an indescribable demeanor. She sat quietly on the sofa, as if she was a frozen painting of court lady. "Mr. Zhou, sorry to keep you waiting." Lu Chen took a step forward and took the initiative to extend his hand to Zhou Yi. "Please forgive me for my negligence." Zhou Yi smiled and held Lu Chen's hand tightly as he replied, "Mr. Lu, you're exaggerating. I came abruptly." Usually, the meeting between the two of them should have been arranged beforehand. Zhou Yi and Madame Jin's arrival was very sudden. It felt like a surprise attack. Lu Chen asked, "These two are?" Zhou Yi smiled. "Let me introduce you. This is my cousin, Mingzhu." The woman in the white dress slowly stood up and extended her hand to Lu Chen, saying, "Hello, Mr. Lu." Her voice was very pleasant, a little soft, and she spoke fluent Mandarin. It had the taste of Jiangnan. "Hello." Lu Chen held her little hand and was a little surprised. "Miss Nya, have you lived in Suzhou before?" Mingzhu smiled and said, "I was born in Xiangjiang, but I spent high school and university in Jinling. I even worked for Suyang for a year, so I could be considered half a Jiangnan person." There was a smile at the corner of her mouth, with a hint of playfulness, and her whole person seemed to have become lively because of it. Lu Chen was secretly amazed. In terms of appearance and temperament, among all the women he had seen, only Chen Feier and Qin Qing could be compared to her, and they condensed the beauty of heaven and earth. Lu Chen deduced that the other party's family background was definitely not ordinary. An ordinary family would not be able to cultivate such an outstanding young lady. Burying his thoughts in his heart, Lu Chen invited the two of them to sit down again and asked Li Zhen to bring a new cup of tea. The atmosphere between the two of them was very good. Zhou Yi did not explicitly state the purpose of his visit. Instead, he chatted with Lu Chen about the current film and television industry in Xiangjiang, including the existing problems and future development direction. He focused on the industry support policy that the Xiangjiang government had just introduced and its impact on the entire industry. Zhou Yi was obviously not the kind of person who boasted and spoke eloquently. He did not say much, but he was always able to hit the nail on the head. Many of his viewpoints made Lu Chen feel refreshed. Following this topic, Zhou Yi talked to Lu Chen about a Chinese ghost story. He thought that Lu Chen had chosen a good time to come to Xiangjiang to develop, and the success or failure of this movie was very important, especially in terms of quality. There was no room for sloppiness. According to the current news, there were only 24 movies produced in Xiangjiang that could be screened in the mainland through the support policy, which was exactly 2 movies per month. Compared to the number of movies produced in Xiangjiang every year, there were really too many monks and not enough gruel. The competition would definitely be extremely fierce, and getting a slot was not only based on connections, but more importantly, the quality of the movie. Even if a shoddy movie could pass the review and be screened in the mainland, it would still be a disgrace. The Xiangjiang government would definitely not agree to it. Lu Chen deeply agreed with this. He had an understanding of the policy conditions in this area, but not as in-depth as Zhou Yi. At this time, Mingzhu, who had been playing the role of a listener, also interrupted. However, she was talking about the script of a Chinese ghost story. As for Jiang Pictures, Lu Chen's studio had already sent the script over, so it was normal for Mingzhu to have seen it. She was obviously very interested in the story that was adapted from Strange Tales from a Chinese studio. There were quite a lot of questions. Lu Chen patiently answered them one by one. He had already understood Zhou Yi's real intention. The other party did not mention it directly, undoubtedly because he did not want to fall into a passive position in the subsequent negotiations. Instead, he put the choice on his side. Zhou Yi finally said, Mingzhu graduated from the Jinling Film and Television Academy and majored in acting. Originally, she planned to stay in the country to develop, but her family was worried, so she returned to Xinjiang. So that was it. Lu Chen nodded, indicating that he understood. There was no need to be too straightforward when talking to a smart person. After this exchange, although it did not involve any negotiation terms, in fact, the two parties had taken a big step towards the success of the cooperation. The following developments also prove this point. In the following days, Lu Chun Studio and Jiang Pictures started a new round of negotiations and finally reached an agreement on the 7th day after Lu Chun arrived in Xinjiang. Both parties were very satisfied with this agreement. Lu Chun held his bottom line, and Jiang Pictures not only got a share of the profits, but also got the female lead of a Chinese ghost story and another important supporting role, Grandma Tree. The one who played Nie Xiaoqian was Nie Mingzhu. On the second day after signing the cooperation agreement with Jiang Pictures, Lu Chen handed the follow-up matters to Chen Wenxiang and Wan Xiaoquan. He flew to Huhai with his assistant Zhang Xiaofeng, and then transferred to Wuming City. Chapter 457. Lu Chen flew to Wuming to visit the set. The object of the visit was, of course, his girlfriend, Chen Feier. The latter was filming the long historical TV series, Shengshi Longsong, on the Mongolian steppe. She had been there for several days, and it was said that the conditions were quite difficult. Shengshi Longsong was the 2017 blockbuster TV series of CCTV. It had a huge investment and a strong cast. Naturally, the shooting period was very long, and most of the scenes were shot in real scenes. This was the unchanging feature of CCTV's blockbuster TV series for decades. Big scenes and big pictures, especially when it came to military and war-related content. Even Hollywood would be stunned by the manpower and resources used. For an important role played by Chen Feier, it was very normal for her to go to the Mongolian steppe or the Gobi Desert to film for dozens of days. After arriving in Wuming City, the capital of Mongolia, Lu Chen and Zhang Xiaofeng left the airport and got the off-road vehicle that Beijing studio had arranged in advance. Then they drove to the filming site more than 700 kilometers away. The Mongolian province, with a total area of more than 7 million square kilometers, was the largest province in China. At the beginning of the last century, Outer Mongolia was separated from China and returned to the embrace of the motherland in the 1970s. After leaving Wuming City, the surrounding terrain quickly opened up. The rolling hills and green grasslands became the most important scenery along the way. After driving along the highway for more than 300 kilometers, it was already dark by the time they reached Bardo City. The two stayed in Bader City for a night, filled up the off-road vehicle, and continued northwest. Out of Bader City, they entered the vast Mongolian steppe. There were basically no regular roads here. Without the guidance of a satellite navigation system, it was very easy to get lost and not find the way back. But driving a powerful off-road vehicle on the steppe was definitely a kind of enjoyment. Opening the roof of the vehicle, bathing in the sun and wind, freely driving to one's heart's content, let people's mood fly with the release of dandelions. This was the first time that Lu Chen had come to Mongolia. On the way, he exchanged seats with Zhang Xiaofeng and drove by himself, enjoying the feeling of being far away from the world. At 8 o'clock in the morning, they set off for Bader City. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the two found Shuquanwai, where the film crew of CCTV's Shengshi Longsong was located. Shui Quanwei was a large settlement for the local Mongolians. It was located by the Little Mirror Lake and had a population of more than 10,000. The Mongolians had been living a nomadic life for generations, but in modern times, with the continuous growth of the population and the development of animal husbandry, The contradiction between survival and the environment became increasingly prominent. In order to protect the ecology of the prairie, many Mongolians began to live a settled life. Shuquanwai was such a settlement, which was equivalent to a grassland town. It was a local tourist attraction, and because of the relatively good conditions and facilities, it became the base of the CCTV Shengshi Longsong film crew. From afar, Lu Chun could see Ao Bao standing on a high slope with a colorful flag fluttering in the wind. The Ao Bao was a landmark on the grassland, and also the place where the herdsmen offered sacrifices. It was telling Lu Chun that he had finally reached his destination after traveling thousands of kilometers from the south to the north. Shuquanwai covered a large area. The central area was composed of large buildings and bungalows with white walls and green tiles. There were many beautiful Mongolian yurts scattered around the town on the grassland, and scattered cattle and sheep could be seen everywhere. In the distance was the sparkling Little Mirror Lake, and a group of horses were eating grass by the lake, chasing and playing. It was really a picturesque scenery. By inquiring the local villagers, Lu Chun easily found the place where the film crew was stationed. It was an independent compound, and a vehicle with the words Shengshi Longsong Film Crew was parked in front of the gate. He must have found the right place. There was a staff member in the compound. When Lu Chun went in to inquire, the staff member recognized him at a glance. "Are you Lu Chun?" The staff member of the Central TV film crew was very surprised. "Why are you here? Don't tell me you're here to film with our crew. I haven't received any notice." Lu Chun was not on the cast list of Shengshi Longsong film crew, but it was normal for such a strong cast to add or lose an actor temporarily. It was not worth making a fuss about. Lu Chun smiled and said, "I'm here to visit." "Visit?" The staff member was suddenly speechless. It was also normal for actors and artists to have friends in the circle to visit when they were filming outside. However, this was the central area of the Mongolian grassland, and the nearest city was hundreds of kilometers away. The staff member was very experienced, but he had never seen anyone like Lu Chun. He suddenly came to a realization. "You're here to see Chun Feier, aren't you? Wasn't Chun Feier Lu Chun's girlfriend?" The relationship between the two of them was really good. The staff member sighed and said enviously, "Miss Chun and the crew are filming at the hunting ground. I guess they won't be back for 2 days. It's more than 100 kilometers away from Shuquanwai." Lu Chun replied without thinking, "Then I'll drive there myself." It's not hard to drive more than 100 kilometers. He had already run thousands of kilometers. How could he miss more than 100 kilometers? The staff member asked with a smile. "You didn't come without informing Miss Chun, did you?" Lu Chun nodded a little embarrassedly. He didn't inform Chun Feier in advance that he came to visit her. The purpose was to give her a surprise. During his time in Hong Kong, the two talked on the phone every day. He knew that Chun Feier had a hard time filming, and he almost had a scandal. Although it was just a misunderstanding and it had been solved, he still felt a little sorry in his heart. Therefore, before the shooting of A Chinese Ghost Story officially began, Lu Chun rushed over to visit her. It was difficult for lovers in the entertainment industry to stay together for a long time. If the relationship wanted to remain unchanged, both sides needed to maintain it carefully. Although the relationship between the two had always been very good, it didn't mean that they didn't need to be cared for. Sure enough, the other party slapped his thigh. "I knew it would be like this. It's really romantic. Then I'll go with you and give you something by the way, so that you don't go the wrong way." Lu Chun was surprised. "That won't delay you, right?" The staff member said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. There are other people stationed inside. I'll just tell them." Lu Chun was grateful. "Thank you so much." "You're welcome." The other party waved his hand and said with a smile, "Just give me an autograph photo. My sister is your fan." Lu Chun smiled. "Tell me your sister's address later. I'll ask Beijing Studio to send her a signed limited edition album." "Great." So, under the leadership of the crew member, Lu Chun and Chun Feier drove to the hunting ground 100 kilometers away again. They traveled all the way just to meet their beloved. Chapter 458. The filming location of Golden Song Row was a hunting ground more than 100 kilometers away from Shuiquan Circle. The hunting ground was located on the bank of Shuiquan River, which was the only source of Little Mirror Lake. The hunting ground covered an area of hundreds of square kilometers, covered in virgin forests and mountains, so there were a lot of wild animals. Due to the need for ecological protection, the hunting ground had basically lost its function, but the name Shuiquan Hunting Ground had been retained, and it had become a good scenic spot. The crew of Golden Song Row had gone to Shuiquan Hunting Ground to film yesterday. According to the plan, they would not be able to return to Shuiquan Circle until tomorrow, and that was only if the filming went smoothly. On the way to Shuiquan Hunting Ground, the crew member who acted as a temporary guide enthusiastically introduced the environment there to Lu Chun. There were also Mongolian settlements in Shuiquan Hunting Ground, so the conditions there were not too bad. He obviously didn't want Lu Chun to worry about Chun Fei Er's living conditions there, so Lu Chun could be at ease. Zhang Xiaofeng drove very steadily, and after about an hour and a half, they finally saw the wooden fence outside Shuiquan Hunting Ground, as well as the fluttering battle flag. Passing through the obviously temporary gate, the off-road vehicle drove into the settlement of the hunting ground. There were tents scattered at the foot of the mountain, and one of them was especially eye-catching, golden. That's the Khan's golden tent. The staff member who led the way introduced it proudly. I built it with a group of brothers, and we also asked a lot of herdsmen to help. Many of the props were custom-made from Wuming City. Lu Qin was surprised. "You're a props master?" The man was surprised. "I'm working hard in this area. My current job is a props master." He had come to Shuiquan Hunting Ground with a few props. "We're here." The car stopped next to a Mongolian yurt, where several vehicles of the crew were already parked. The staff member jumped out of the car first, grabbed a colleague nearby, and asked, "Do you know where Chun Fei is filming now?" The colleague rolled his eyes. "What do you want?" He gestured to Lu Chun, who had just gotten out of the car. "He's here to visit you." His colleague's eyes widened. F***CK, this master actually came here. He's really capable. The guide smiled and said, "Our relationship is good. One day apart feels like 3 years. It's understandable." His colleague was impressed. "I'm impressed. They should be in the golden tent now. I think they're almost done." The staff explained to Lu Chun. Lu Chun, of course, expressed his understanding. "Then I'll wait here for the crew to finish filming. I won't disturb your work." The staff member smiled and said, "All right then, I'll have to send the props over first." "Excuse me." Lu Chun thanked him again. After bidding farewell to the warm-hearted man, Lu Chun let Zhang Xiaofeng stay in the car while he wandered around the hunting grounds. Other than a few wooden houses, the rest were basically tents. There were also a large number of cattle, sheep, and horses outside, so the smell was not very pleasant. The people who came and went were all Mongolians. They were all very enthusiastic and took the initiative to greet Lu Chun when they saw him. Some even invited Lu Chun to sit in their tents. Lu Chun responded politely, but declined the invitation, saying that he had something else to do. "Are you also here to film?" As he wandered around to watch the fun, he suddenly heard a crisp voice next to him, as pleasant as an oriole. Lu Chun couldn't help but turn his head and see a little Mongolian girl standing a few steps away. She was about 13 or 14 years old. Her skin was dark, but her eyes were big and lively. She was wearing traditional ethnic clothing with a pink, green, and blue tunic dress. Her black hair was tied into small braids, and her pointed hat was inlaid with colorful gems. She was a little Mongolian beauty. She was also holding a long whip in her hand. Behind the little girl was a little brat with a runny nose. He was probably her younger brother. He was tugging at his sister's belt and timidly peeking at Lu Chun. Lu Chun found it interesting. He leaned over and replied with a smile, "I'm not here to film. I'm here to visit." The other party's Mandarin was very standard, without any regional accent. "Visit?" The little girl clearly didn't understand the meaning of the word. Lu Chun explained, "I'm here to visit a friend who's filming." "Ah." The little girl suddenly understood. "Then he must be a very, very good friend of yours, right?" Lu Chun nodded with a smile and asked, "Little girl, what's your name?" The little girl replied very seriously, "My name is Jejentana. I'll be an adult in 2 years." She meant that she wasn't young anymore. Lu Qin chuckled. "Jejentana? The pearl of the grassland. What a nice name." Jejentana was surprised. "You know the meaning of my name?" Lu Qin smiled but didn't say anything. In Mongolian, Jejentana meant pearl. Lu Qin had found it out from Fong Mingyi's memory. The latter could speak simple Mongolian and had traveled on the Mongolian grassland. However, in Fong Mingyi's world, Outer Mongolia didn't return to the motherland, which became a pain in the hearts of countless people. The memory came back, and for a moment, he couldn't help but be absent-minded. Jejentana rolled her dark eyes and asked, "How long are you going to stay in the spring hunting ground?" Lu Chan came back to his senses and replied with a smile, "Just a day or two. I came from Xiangjiang." Xiangjiang, for Jejentana, Xiangjiang was undoubtedly a very distant place. There was a trace of confusion on her face. "Who's your visiting friend?" Lu Qin said, "Her name is Chun Fei. Do you know her?" "Sister Fei." Jejentana's eyes suddenly lit up. "Your sister Fei? Er's friend?" She was very smart. "Boyfriend?" Lu Qin nodded with a smile. Jejentana's face fell a little as if she had thought of something. Lu Qin was about to speak when he suddenly heard Zhang Xiaofeng shout, which made his heart tighten. It must be that Chun Fei was about to come out after the shooting at the Golden Tent. He didn't have time to chat with this very interesting Mongolian girl and said, "I'm going over. Goodbye." "Wait." Jejentana suddenly stopped Lu Qin, then stuffed the whip in her hand into his hand and said, "This is for you. Don't lose it." After saying that, she turned around and ran away with her brother, disappearing between the yurts in the blink of an eye. Lu Qin held the whip in a daze, but it was too late for him to refuse. But he didn't care about such a small thing now, because he had already seen a figure appear at the Golden Tent from a long distance. Lu Qin ran in that direction without thinking. The familiar figure became clearer and clearer. Chapter 459. With tired steps, Chanfer walked out of the Khan's Golden Tent, which served as a temporary shooting site. What she wanted to do most now was to go back to the Mongolian yurt where she lived, lie on the bed covered with a velvet blanket, and have a good sleep. She didn't want to think about anything, and then sleep until the next morning. Shooting on location was very troublesome and tiring. It was undoubtedly a big test for Chun Fei, to travel thousands of kilometers from the prosperous and comfortable big city to the boundless Mongolian steppe. She started her career as a singer and had guest roles in several movies before. Autumn in My Heart was her first time to play the female lead role, which could be considered as her real entry into the film and television industry. But whether it was Autumn in My Heart or Full House of Romance, although the shooting of the two urban romance dramas was very busy, the crew took good care of her. In addition, many scenes were shot in the film and television city, so it was not very hard. Shengshi Long Song Line was completely different. As the annual drama of CCTV, this long TV series involved many characters. Chun Fei, it was not a top big shot among them. Naturally, she didn't want to get the best care. Moreover, the director of this TV series, Zhang Ku, had always been known for his strict requirements for actors in the circle. He was experienced and famous, and backed by the towering tree of CCTV, so he dared to point out the mistakes made by any big stars, and even scolded them. If a scene did not meet his requirements, Zhang Ke would let the actor perform again and again until he was finally satisfied. After the training of 2 TV series, Chun Fei-er's acting skills could be said to have improved a lot compared to before. But obviously, she could not completely meet Zhang Ke's standards, so she suffered a lot in this regard. Most importantly, even if she suffered a lot, Chun Fei-er would grit her teeth and stick to it. Not only because this TV series could greatly improve her position in the circle, but also because she wanted to prove her ability to everyone. Of course, in this way, she worked even harder. At this moment, Chun Fei could not help thinking of Lu Chun in Hong Kong. He must be living a good life. Maybe he was drinking coffee with a beautiful woman now, Lu Chun. Just as Chen Fei was letting her imagination run wild, the assistant beside her suddenly screamed, "Sister Fei, Lu Chun is here." Chen Fei was stunned for a moment. He wondered if he was hallucinating. Why is Lu Chun here? This wasn't Beijing or the Jinling film city. It was the hinterland of the vast Mongolian steppe, and the nearest city was hundreds of kilometers away. However, the next moment, Chen Fei saw Lu Chun running towards him. It really was Lu Chun. Chen Fei couldn't believe her eyes. The huge surprise instantly made her eyes blur with tears. All the tiredness, grievance, and bitterness in her heart disappeared, leaving only an incomparable sweetness. Under the watchful eyes of the public, she rushed forward and threw herself into Lu Chen's arms. Lu Chen hugged Chen Fei. In contrast, he was much more rational. He noticed all kinds of strange eyes from all directions, so he could only resist the impulse in his heart and did not make any overly intimate moves. He patted his girlfriend's back and whispered, "You've lost weight." The tears in her eyes suddenly fell. Chen Fei wanted to cry in his arms, but she didn't forget where she was. She gently broke away from Lu Chen's arms, reached out her hand to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes, and asked, "Why are you here?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "I missed you, so I came." The onlookers expressed that these words of love gave them goosebumps all over their bodies. Many single people suffered 10,000 points of critical damage at the same time. They simply couldn't continue to watch. "Chen Fei, is this your boyfriend?" The words of praise came from a dark and thin middle-aged man. He was about 40 or 50 years old, wearing a dark gray jacket. His hair was messy, and his cheekbones were high. He looked at the two of them with a pair of bright eyes. Chen Fei hurriedly introduced him to Lu Chun. "This is our director, Director Zhang Kazhang." "Hello, Director Zhang." Lu Chun immediately stepped forward and took the initiative to extend his hands to him. "I'm Lu Chun. I've heard a lot about you." It was estimated that everyone in the country knew Director Zhang Kazhang, and Lu Chun was no exception. He was a direct TV series director of CCTV. He had shot large-scale historical series such as Qin, Romance of Sui and Tang, the Ming Empire, Opium War, and so on. Not only was he well known in China, but he also had a great reputation in the Asian film and television industry. In front of this great senior in the circle, no matter how many TV series and movies Lu Chun had shot, he was still a junior. Zhang shook hands with Lu Chun, and a smile appeared on his serious face. "I know you. Zhang Wentian once mentioned you to me. Is Wan Shaoquan helping you now?" Lu Chun replied respectfully, "Yes, Director Wan is currently in Hong Kong to shoot my first movie." Zhang nodded. "It's not easy for Wan Shaoquan either. You're very good." He looked at Chen Fei and said, "As Chen Fei's boyfriend, you are qualified." Everyone laughed. At this moment, there were a lot of people around, many of whom were actors in the crew. They were still wearing their costumes. Those with high status could stand in, while the extras could only look at them from afar and point at them. The male actors admired and envied Lu Chun, while the female actors mostly admired and envied him. It was very common for stars to visit the set, but coming here to visit the set was not something that ordinary people could do. Lu Chun was a little embarrassed by their laughter. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled, and the corners of her lips curled up with the taste of happiness. She introduced other actors to Lu Chun. "This is Big Brother Shirlang. This is Yin Kong, Teacher Yin, Sister Ruan." The main actors that Chen Fei introduced to Lu Chun were all big shots in the film and television circle. The most famous one was undoubtedly Shirlang, who played the leading actor. He had won 3 major domestic film awards and starred in several popular films and TV series. Shirlang was tall and handsome. At first glance, one could tell that he was the image of a positive character. His attitude towards Lu Chun was very good, and he did not have the slightest airs of a big shot. After the introduction of a circle of people, Zhang Ku said, "You can go. Remember not to delay tomorrow's shooting." His words were sincere and meaningful. Several actresses giggled, and Shi Lang and the others also smiled ambiguously. Chun Feier's face was red with laughter, and she hurriedly pulled Lu Chun to the tent where she lived. Chapter 460. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. They hadn't seen each other for more than half a month. Couples in love always wanted to be together at all times. Being apart from each other was the most difficult thing to bear. When they met again, the flames of love would naturally burn especially fiercely. It was just that it wasn't dark yet, and the crew had just finished shooting. There were people coming and going outside the tent, and it was very lively. Under such circumstances, Lu Chan could only forcibly suppress the impulse and have a little warmth with Chun Fei to resolve his lovesickness. Chun Fei who was blushing, grabbed Lu Chen's hand that was moving in her skirt. She said shyly with her beautiful eyes, "Okay, let's talk about it at night." Her eyes were so charming that they were about to drip water. She was very attractive. Fortunately, Lu Chen's willpower was strong enough. Otherwise, he would really push her down at all costs. He reluctantly withdrew his hand and lowered his head to kiss Chun Fei's pretty face. The two leaned against each other and talked about their respective situations. Lu Chun told Chun Fei everything he had encountered in Shanjiang. Compared to Chun Fei who was filming here, he could say a lot more. So most of the time, it was Chun Fei who was listening. After listening, Chun Fei said with a smile, "You're lucky. You actually got a like from Lu Gangsheng. With him protecting you, you can do whatever you want in Xiangjiang's entertainment circle." What she said, Lu Chan was impressed by his girlfriend. She must have seen a lot of gangster films in Xiangjiang. "Do you know Lu Gangsheng?" Chun Fei replied, "I've seen him twice, but I'm not familiar with him. My main friends in Xiangjiang are Sister Shujing." Lu Chen asked, "What about Madame Jean?" Chun Fei smiled and said, "Madame Jean is too smart. We can cooperate, but not be friends." Lu Chen nodded. He thought of Zhou Yi. Chun Fei's evaluation was very accurate. Madame Jean was not much different from Zhou Yi. Chun Fei picked up the whip on the bedside table and asked curiously, "Where did you get this?" "Oh," Lu Chan explained, "I met a Mongolian girl just now, Jejentana. She forced it on me. It was not good to throw away a gift from someone else, so when he came in just now, he casually placed it here." "Jejentana?" Chun Fei was surprised. "Is it Jejentana from the Qian family? That pretty little girl?" Lu Chen wasn't sure. "I think so." Chun Fei's eyes widened. He waved the whip in his hand. "She gave you this whip, and you accepted it? You didn't return it to her?" Lu Chen suddenly felt like he had fallen into a trap. "Is there a problem?" Chun Fei immediately laughed, shaking like a flower. She leaned on Lu Chen's shoulder and said with a smile, "This is a girl's whip for Mongolian girls. They are all made by themselves and usually only given to their sweetheart. It's equivalent to a token of love. Jejentana fell in love with you at first sight. That's why she gave you this whip the moment they met. You actually accepted it?" Hee. Lu Chun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How would I know? He really didn't know. In Fang Mingyi's memory of Mongolia, there didn't seem to be such a custom. "Then I'll return it." Chun Fei criticized. "Jejentana is a good girl. Don't you think you're hurting her heart by doing this?" Lu Chun was speechless. "Then what should I do?" Chun Fei said with a smile. "You don't have to do anything. This was a custom in the past. It doesn't matter now. When Jejentana meets someone she really likes, she will naturally weave another whip. Actually, someone in our crew also received a whip. If Brother Shi Lang hadn't found out what was going on later, I'm afraid he would have wrapped it up and brought it back. So that was how it was." Lu Chan was finally relieved. He knew that Chun Fei was deliberately teasing him. He reached out to tickle Chun Fei in revenge. Chun Fei was most afraid of tickles. She laughed and dodged. Suddenly, she grabbed a whip from behind her like a magic trick and waved it at Lu Chun. She said proudly, Don't you dare bully me. I have one too. Be careful, or I'll whip you. Mongolian women were like wild horses on the grassland. Timid and wretched cowards couldn't conquer them. They liked real men, and this whip was used to tame wild horses. Taking the initiative to give the whip represented entrusting one's fate. On the other hand, it could also be used as a weapon to whip unfaithful men. It had a double meaning. Jejentana had taught Chinfeir how to weave her whip. It was actually very easy to distinguish an ordinary whip from a girl's whip. The latter had a red concentric knot on the handle, so it was very easy to distinguish. The sweet time always passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark. The herdsmen set up a bonfire on the grass by the river and invited the crew to join their feast. Luchan was lucky enough to sit together and enjoy the fragrant roast lamb and horse milk wine. All the main members of the crew were present. Director Zhang Ku, the main actor Shi Lang, and the others were all sitting around the bonfire. Here, regardless of their status in the circle, they were all guests of the Mongolian herdsmen who were enthusiastic and generous. The bonfire blazed, fireflies danced, and a bright moon hung high in the sky. The grassland, shrouded in the night sky, was exceptionally beautiful. When they were drunk, a burly man stood up and said loudly, "Ladies, men, let's dance and welcome our friend from the capital." Chinfeir lowered her voice and said to Lu Chun, "This is Jejentana's father, the owner of the spring hunting ground. We all call him Uncle Begging Face." The young herdsmen around them stood up one after another. A few old Mongolians played the horsehead zither and the peace drum, instantly pushing the atmosphere to a climax. The Mongolians were a people who loved singing and dancing. Their songs and dances have been passed down from generation to generation. Even today, they still had a charming charm. They were passionate, bold, and full of optimism, making people smile when they heard them. Under their lead, the crew also cast aside their reservations and sang and danced along, sharing the joy together. After the song was finished, one of the herdsmen shouted, "Let the guests sing a song too, okay?" "Okay." The young herdsmen cheered loudly and applauded in unison. As the saying goes, it's hard to refuse hospitality. Under such circumstances, how could the guests not show their skills? Therefore, everyone's eyes fell on Lu Chun and Chinfeir. When it came to singing, who could compete with this couple? Lu Chun and Chinfeir looked at each other. The latter pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You sing." Lu Chun did not refuse. He stood up big and said, "Then I'll show my incompetence and sing a song." "Okay." Applause and cheers rang out again. Chapter 461. More and more people gathered around the bonfire by the river. It felt like all the herdsmen in the hunting ground had arrived. The light from the burning fire illuminated the faces, like a huge oil painting, yet extremely vivid. The jade ribbon-like spring river flowed quietly on the grassland, the ripples sparkling. That was the radiance of the moon. The neighing of steeds could be heard from afar. A light breeze blew past, carrying the fragrance of earth and grass in the air. Under everyone's gaze, Lu Chun strode up to an old herdsman, bowed and asked, "Sir, may I borrow your horsehead zither?" The old herdsman was very old. The dark skin on his face showed deep scars of time. His hair was white, and his eyes were cloudy. However, he was very good at playing the horsehead zither. Hearing that Lu Chun wanted to borrow his zither, the old herdsman grinned, revealing his uneven yellow teeth. His wrinkled face looked like a chrysanthemum. He generously handed the zither to Lu Chun. "Here." "Thank you." Lu Chun took the zither and bowed again to express his gratitude. The zither looked very old, probably as old as the old herdsman in front of him, but it was well maintained. The materials used for the head, the shaft, and the resonating box were quite exquisite. The dark maroon surface had a clear coating. Only those who knew their stuff would know how precious such an ancient horsehead zither was. Everyone was shocked, be it Uncle Begging and the other herdsmen, or the crew members like Zhang Ku and Shi Lang. No one had expected Lu Chun to play with a horsehead zither. Many people present knew that Lu Chun played the guitar very well, but a guitar and a horsehead zither were two different things. He could not possibly play a horsehead zither with the same technique he used on the guitar, could he? That would be a joke. Lu Chun sat down on a small folding stool. He held the horsehead zither in his arms and said, "This is my first time coming to the Mongolian grassland. It's so beautiful. It feels like the home of my dreams. At the same time, I'm very grateful to my Mongolian friends for your hospitality. So this song is for you." Although there were a lot of people gathered around, when Lu Chun spoke, everyone was very polite to keep quiet, so his voice could be clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Hearing Lu Chun's praise for the Mongolian steppe, the herdsman smiled proudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the enthusiastic herdsman immediately gave him a round of applause. Lu Chun smiled and waited for the applause to subside. Then he said, "The name of this song is 'The Beautiful Grassland is My Home.'" The beautiful grassland is my home? Zhang Ku, Shi Lang, and the other crew members couldn't help but look at each other because they had never heard this song before. The Mongolian herdsmen could basically understand Chinese. They didn't know that this song was an original work by Lu Chun. When they heard the title of the song, they felt that it was perfect. Wasn't the beautiful grassland their home? Therefore, everyone clapped and cheered again. Among the people present, only Chun Feier understood. She gazed at Lu Chun affectionately. Her eyes were filled with gentle love and pride. Sister Fer, at this moment, a delicate figure quietly came to Chun Feier's side. Chun Feier immediately smiled. Sister Jejentana. The little Mongolian girl had a look of shame on her face. She stammered and said in a low voice, "Sister Feier, I gave my whip to Brother Lu Chun." Women on the grassland dared to love and hate. When they met someone they liked, they dared to take the initiative to confess. They would never hide their feelings for others to guess. Jejentana was no exception. She had never seen a Han man as handsome as Lu Chun, so she gave him her whip. But after thinking about it, Lu Chun was Sister Feier's boyfriend. It was wrong of her to do so. Therefore, after a fierce struggle, she finally came to Chun Feier and apologized. "Don't be angry, silly sister." Chun Feier smiled and held Jejentana in her arms. Sister won't be angry, because Sister knows that Jejentana is a good girl. So, let's listen to the song together. She liked Jejentana very much. How could she be jealous and angry because of the little girl's budding feelings? It was normal for many girls to like a man like Lu Chun. On the other side, Lu Chun had already begun to sing. The sound of the horsehead zither was melodious, playing a beautiful melody. "The beautiful grassland is my home. The wind blows the green grass and flowers everywhere. Butterflies flutter and birds sing. A bend of clear water reflects the sunset glow. Steeds are like colorful clouds. Cattle and sheep scatter like pearls." Ah, ha, ha, the shepherd girl sang loudly, and her happy voice filled the world. The song "The Beautiful Grassland is My Home" was a widely sung classic in Lu Chun's dream world. The song, with a beautiful pastoral tune, praised the picturesque scenery of the Mongolian grassland and the happy life of the herdsman, and had been covered by countless singers. Lu Chun played the horsehead zither, and it could be said to be an original interpretation. The first two bars were a series of upward and upward movements, as if herdsmen were climbing high to overlook the vast grassland, the yurts blooming like lotus flowers, and the cattle and sheep scattered on the pasture like pearls, making people involuntarily immersed in the atmosphere created by the song. Later, there was a sublimation in the music, pouring out the infinite praise of the herdsmen for the beauty of their hometown. The continuous ups and downs and a progressive sense of narration made the lyrical color of the song more rich. At this moment, this place, this scenery, this zither, this song, who could not be intoxicated? "The beautiful grassland is my home. The water is clear and the grass is beautiful. I love it. The grassland is like a green sea. The yurts are like white lotus flowers. The herdsmen describe a happy scene. The spring scenery is picturesque. Ah, ha, ha, The shepherd girl sings loudly. Her happy voice is heard all over the world. The shepherd girl sings loudly. Her happy voice is heard all over the world. The structure of the second paragraph was exactly the same as the previous one. The four phrases developed in a square, in addition to a deeper level of improvement in the music. In terms of lyricism, there was a more lingering charm. In particular, there was a long note in the last sentence, with a strong attachment. That was the author's love for the beautiful grassland, a reluctant confession. The sound of the zither and the song lingered, drifting between the yurts, across the spring river, and fluttering over the boundless grassland. Until the end of Lu Chen's singing, no one spoke. The surroundings were quiet, as if a magic of time had been cast, and only the crackling sound of the firewood burning in the bonfire reminded people. Many herdsmen were intoxicated by the song, and many even had tears in their eyes. Born here, grow up here, sing here, cry here, and die here. Perhaps they did not know these words, but their love for their hometown had long been integrated into their bones and blood, and that strong and blazing emotion was completely aroused by Lu Chen's singing at this moment. The beautiful grassland is my home. Note, the beautiful grassland is my home, lyricist, Hua/composer, Alatangol. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.